fade away and return to nothing. Your strength is great, but you're no match for me, no. I'll let you live for the entertaining. God of all creation, God of your creation now. So fade away and return to nothing. Your strength is great, but you're no match for me, no. I'll let you live for the entertaining. God of all creation, God of your creation now. Was to end my life, chance for repentance be denied. They want to see me crucified, a mass hysterical delight. I cry out, God forgive them, for they not know what they are doing. They see their barbarism simply as a mute. I'm not a religion, but I am your God. It takes more than scripture to get you to stop this facade. Your tongue, trying to tell you that I'm not the one. But whatever's whatever, and when it is all said and done,
All right. Hello, chat. Oh, excuse me. Today's going to be... I think I definitely need to emphasize that there's going to be this stream is definitely going to be a little bit different from others. While I'm going to have some critiques over some of the content we're going to cover today, I have to hold it with a little bit more respect, mostly just because the individual we're going to talk about, I feel very sad for, because a lot of the story surrounding this is very, very depressing. I've kind of followed this story for a little while, but I do think that we'll do our best. I think we'll do our best. Anyway, I do have an individual here with me today who is going to be along for the ride. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Shamchez. I'm a how do I say it? New. I'm new to the whole like VTuber scene. I've been watching for a while now, but
we're gonna be more serious tonight.
Huh?
I said we're gonna be a little more serious tonight.
Yeah, oh. I gotcha. Well, like, I just I wanted to I've been watching VTubers for a while. I found Akko. I've been a watcher for a while now, and it kind of inspired me to try it out myself. So, as an artist, I designed my own guy here. You can see me there, and yeah, I just wanted to hop in to talk about shenanigans, you know. But yep. Of course, now that I know that this is more serious stuff, I'm not gonna compare this to the usual shenanigans that y'all have talked about before.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's just because I'm gonna be just as new to this topic as you guys are. I've kept up with Smash drama in the past a little bit, but it just so happens that other creators decide to talk about it. You know, Sam, Hungrybox, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But this is new to me.
Okay.
And all I know is the video we're going to be watching today. It's long. That's all I know.
It is. There's a chance we might not get through all of it, and I am going to be jumping around a little bit of it because some of it really doesn't need to be illustrated. Unfortunately, I don't have timestamps. I have listened to people talk about this in the past, and I have listened to it in the past, but I have not, unfortunately, got good timestamps for it. So we are going to be jumping around just a little bit to make sure that everything operates to a decent capacity, in my personal opinion.
Okay, I got you.
Chat, if you are interested, the topic of today is we are talking about a Smash Melee player that unfortunately is no longer with us. And again, like I said, we are going to try and be as respectful as possible with this entire situation. Because while I do believe that there are a lot of critiques that you could probably give this individual for how he went about some things on stream, or not on stream, on camera, I am definitely going to be trying to be more of a respectful individual for tonight. I know that tonight is not my normal smattering of drama. However, in order to cover the technicals video that I know a lot of people are wanting me to cover, that I'm still kind of reading reviews on, I kind of need to review this first and give some people a bit of context. Because in order for me to sit through the technicals video, which will be viewed at a later point, undeterminate, we need to sit down and kind of learn about the individual that we've got. So that's why I've brought Sham on tonight with me in order to do that. So
which is a little ironic because even I don't know what's going on.
No, that's totally good. This is more in the Smash Melee scene. Unless you are really big in the Smash Melee scene, this is probably not a very a drama that a lot of people, again, this is gonna be something that's a little bit smaller. I'm probably not going to cut this up for a video or anything. This stream is just going to stay by itself. But I did feel like this was something that would be interesting to review for the specificities of making sure I prepare for a future video that people want me to watch. Is the robot waterproof? I don't know. Is the robot waterproof?
Let's not try that. Okay. Not yet, anyway.
Fair enough.
Now, Actually, before we start watching, like, I don't want to get too off, too off topic, just because this is a long video. We're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah.
I did a tiny bit of digging. You asked me not to, but I did a tiny little bit, and I checked the channel from where this is from, and I just think it's like a really weird channel, just because they only have 2 other uploads.
Well,
One
these
of
are
them I forgot.
re-uploads. What we're going to be watching is a re-upload. So,
It's a re-upload. Okay, okay. I gotcha.
yeah, no, yeah. A lot the videos that we're going to be watching, none of them are from the original channel. And so because it's not from the original channel, you shouldn't really like expect it's an archive channel. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny. Like, because like I saw the hyper cringe zero rap in the videos too. Like,
No, yeah, that's nothing to worry about. Like again, like I said, I don't think the original channel, because here's the thing. Let me give you guys, so we're going to give like a brief backstory to what we're going to be watching tonight. Tonight we're going to be watching a video called Evidence.Zip 2. Evidence.Zip 2 was originally created by the creator Hacks in question as a response to what he felt was a long-term ongoing harassment between him and another Smash content creator. I am going to be as nice as I can when I say this, because I do feel really bad for this individual, but a lot of what he decides to say in this documentary was very quickly waved off as somebody that sounded like they had some form of schizophrenic tendencies. Now, that's definitely not what I would think. I think that this man is very clearly, he very clearly had some mental things that he was working through, and he used some of the world around him to kind of explain what was going on. But what I'm planning on doing, since I have reviewed this, not like on stream, but I have talked about this in the past with friends, I am going to stop at certain points and explain to you guys what you're listening to and what you're hearing, mostly for you, Sham, as well. We're just going to kind of go through this pretty much. And like I said, chat, we're not going to go through the entirety of this. Some of this is not worth going through because it really just requires a very simple explanation. So we're going to be doing the best that we can as we go through this. Now, I do have the screen up for you, so you should be able to see it.
I see it on my end.
If you want to, and you should be able to hear noise if I start playing it. So what I'm going to do here, chat, is we're going to switch over. I love that you're objective. Well, thank you. What I will say, chat, excuse me. What I will say, chat, sorry, I'm like, I need some water. Give me one moment. What I will say, chat, is before we do get started, chat, I did want to say that there was a very interesting critique of myself and my content yesterday by Armchair Expert, very, very cool VTuber content creator. He is literally just a chair that talks about different topics on the internet, and he made a critique of my content that I thought was actually pretty good, and I did want to talk about that briefly as like an aside. I did want to talk about this, and I think that in the future, probably like on Wednesday or Friday of next week, I can lend more open opinion about what I think about this, because there is like a space to talk about what Armchair has said, and I do feel like what he said is very important for us to talk about, because more recently there has been a lot of critique of individuals in the drama sphere. Some drama creators have had a certain amount of backlash and anger because of actions that they have decided to take or things that they have done. And I feel like Armchair did a good job illustrating why people act the way they do in the drama sphere. Because when it comes to the drama, now, to be fair, I kind of looked at the drama sphere in 2 different categories, and I feel like more accurately split them up into 3 different categories. And I feel like the categories that he split them up into works pretty damn well. And I am going to say right now that the way that it is fit, I can agree or disagree with how people choose to do their reporting in the drama sphere. However, the way that it was explained by Armchair, who I'm kind of like hiding behind me right now, is, in my personal opinion, a very good representation of what you should expect from certain content creators that do decide to fall into the typology of drama tubers. So the first one which I think everybody knows who this is drama or excuse me, news reporters. Now, news reporters are typically the guys that just report the news and the happenings to their audiences. They will typically be very selective with what they choose to report because they will only report things that they feel like is most important for their audience. They will not report on tiny things, or they will typically only report on things that still fits within being able to be friendly with some industry individuals. I feel like False, who is in the top of this category, is pretty accurate. When he reports on stories, he is usually very straight with the facts. He doesn't give a lot of opinions. He just tells you what it is when he is able to do it. And so that is a very accurate. The second one is the friendly neighborhood, and this is kind of represented by Rima. Friendly neighborhood individuals, they will report drama. However, they will also, in reporting the drama, try to advocate for life lessons. Their job as a reporter is less to really grill the individual, although they may still somewhat do that. However, their job is to teach lessons, build community, and teach morality. And I'm going to be honest with you, chat. I feel like I am slowly kind of drifting between the third category that we're going to talk about and this one. Because while I do think that I definitely fit in the third category, which is the industry heel, I do feel like I kind of jump between both of these because I am slowly, I would say transitioning is probably not the right term, but I feel like I coexist in being able to have that friendliness nature and teach those lessons, but also do it as an industry heel, if that makes sense. The page is hidden. Here, chat. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll change to this screen here.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I think I agree too. Like, I will say, for starters, I haven't seen this video. Like, I know about Armchair, but like I haven't seen this before.
It was a 7-hour video, so.
Oh my god, it was a 7-hour. That's crazy.
Yeah, he typically does 10-hour streams, so this was one of his shorter ones.
Okay. Well, like I'm looking at this this PowerPoint slide for the first time, and like I could definitely agree with these. Well, admittedly, I don't know who Fallen or Rima are, but like I just noticed that he kind of categorizes these in like 3 solid pillars, when I think it's more fluid, and like you were saying, where you're like in like a nice middle ground between the second one and the third one. Like
I don't. Well, here's the thing. The reason why these categories exist is this is the kind of content that you can expect when you are looking at people, because everybody, I do think that everybody falls into 3 categories. False is a news reporter. 100%. He will not stoop down to being an industry heel, because that's not his thing. He may occasionally I have seen him gossip sometimes on his streams, but he is not that. His main platform that people pay attention to, which is his videos, is him as a news reporter, excuse me. Rima is the friendly neighborhood morality kind of individual. Kind of easy to do when you're a woman. Where she advocates for community standards. She acts in asking people for consciousness and teaching lessons to people. And the industry heel, which again, chat, is where I feel like I am very appropriately placed, is we are the gossipers. We are the critics willing to play the villain for the benefit of the audience. Now, to be fair, I do feel like I don't 100% fit in the last bit of that, because I will play a villain, but it is typically not always for the audience. It is typically in the name of looking for objective truth. So that's why I feel like I'm kind of fluid, but that's just me. That's just me.
Yeah,
That's just me.
And I was thinking that villain is kind of a strong word, because like
It really isn't, though. It's pretty good. If you're thinking in terms of boxing or wrestling, it fits pretty damn well.
Okay, that's fair.
So, being a villain is fun. Yes.
Yeah, well, like when I hear villain, I'm thinking of like a dramaturg who purposely makes like fueled opinions to like start controversy or something, while us, we want to be like, we start controversy by throwing the objective truth at the audience, you know. And like I think that starts controversy because some people can handle that.
It depends. It depends. Anyway, that was just something that's chat. I'm gonna go over more of that because, like, again, there has been rustling in the VTuber drama sphere. I don't really feel like talking about it tonight because it is still kind of a raw thing and it kind of hits close to home. So we're not going to talk about it too much, but I did kind of want to go over it. I do feel like it is worth talking about and then maybe turning that into a video in the future, because I feel like an outside perspective's view on it is definitely, I definitely can see the outside perspective, and I think some people need to have some things talked about it with them. But that's for another day. Instead, we're going to be watching Evidence.Zip. Now, once again, chat, like I mentioned, Evidence.Zip is a video that came out by the gentleman named Hacks. He should be visible on the stream at some point because he shows up in the video. And this whole video centers around him talking about an individual that I will let the video itself name, not myself, that he is in conflict with. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to get started. And if at any points you want me to pause, you want to ask something, you want to get clarification on something, you let me know, all right?
Okay, gotcha. So, like, just a quick question for starters. Do you know when this video was posted?
Yeah, like 3 years ago. This thing is 2 to 3 years ago. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. And I will read this out to people, by the way, if you are just listening, because people that are just listening probably won't be able to pick up their phone while they're either in their car or at work. Shout out to you guys. It says, I am making this video in order to intercept propaganda that is slated to be broadcast this week. The last thing the Smash scene needs is propaganda that will send it further down the path to dystopia. Now, just off the bat, with those
are some strong words.
These opening words here, it is extremely, it invokes extreme amount of emotions, because now knowing that it involves the Smash community really kind of disarms it a little bit, and it really makes it kind of hard to take it as seriously. But it is quite like, you get a lot of strong emotions when looking into something like this, because you feel like there's something that's extremely serious going on here. So with that in mind, let's continue on to see what he has to say. Hopefully this video is able to reverse the scene's current trajectory. There's a PDF version of this video available in the description. Unfortunately, I have been unable to find it. I probably just didn't look hard enough, but I know that it exists. At the very least, I think it's on the farms. Warning, this is a dark video that contains unpleasant information about the status quo of Smash, and I believe that status quo is kind of carried on into today. Viewers' discretion is advised. Is it playing? Yes, it is.
Hey everyone, it's Hacks.
Okay, so this is Hacks, by the way. This is the gentleman of question. I am playing this chat, by the way, on 1.5 times speed, because I am not even quite sure we're going to get through all this tonight. I'm going to do my best. For you, chat, but this is a video that I am playing on 1.5 times speed, specifically so that we can speed through some parts that specifically don't need to be put through, basically.
Gotcha. I'm going to tell you some dark secrets about the Melee community, because I think it's about time for people to hear them.
That's a little too fast. We're going to put it down to 1.25, because I do think he talks decently fast himself.
Unlike most of my videos, today's video is not going to be addressed toward just the Melee community, but rather the esports community as a whole. That's because I value a safe future for everybody in esports, and I happen to know that the Melee community is currently engaging in a pattern of behavior that threatens not only itself, but the rest of the esports world as well. Unfortunately,
so right off the bat, he is coming out and saying that there is a great, he'll mention the word evil down the line, but like he basically starts talking about how there's a great evil that the Melee community itself, but even as a wider sphere, the entirety of the esports scene needs to understand. So he's putting a lot of them, again, like I said, there's a lot of emotion that is going into this, and I think just kind of like, it's okay. So we're about a minute in. I want to know kind of like what your thoughts are. Like what is this making you feel like as you jump into this here? All right. You're a minute in. How do you feel?
Well, for starters, like, Hacks is a name I'm familiar with, but I guess I just haven't heard from him in a while. And I kept up with Smash like as an observer, more or less, not specifically Melee, but just Smash as a whole. Like, I kept up with starting with Smash 4, and then I kept up with Ultimate heard about Ultimate Drama, with some of the players in there, but like I'm just like I'm looking at the scene, like the way they set up, just sitting in front of the camera with with just like all that stuff dangling on the mirror. I even noticed the Randall the Cloud, like that.
Well, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I don't care about that kind of stuff in the background. I want to know like the emotions that this is making you feel based off of what he is saying.
It's hard to say really, because like I just don't have enough context, honestly. Like I know that evil stuff can happen in the Smash community, but I'm just not sure what's gonna happen.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I guess what I like with when you hear those like combination of words where somebody is saying like there's something extremely evil going on, like does it make you feel like maybe like serious? Is like how does that make you feel? I guess on the inside.
Oh, okay. Over exaggerating, honestly. Like
you feel like it's over exaggerating.
Yeah, definitely over exaggerating. Like even at the very start, using the words propaganda and dystopia, like maybe he's just like very 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 invested in this, so it feels like that to him. But for like as an outside observer, it doesn't feel like that to me.
Okay.
That could probably change once I start to learn more.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, continue then.
Fortunately, I've watched my entire community be subjugated by this threat over the years, and it doesn't seem that anyone else sees what I see anymore. If they do, then they're either too paralyzed with fear to make an impact, or they lack the platform to do so. At first, I didn't want to give the esports world the red pill on what was going on within the Melee community. I saw that people were living happily in ignorance, and I didn't want to change that. But it seems that every year that goes by, the situation only gets worse. What drew the line for me was when I saw that the filmmaker Samox recently announced that he'd be releasing an edited version of the metagame documentary, which is set to air this weekend. I'm eventually going to explain why it should actually be illegal for this documentary to air, and why the Melee community needs to wake up to what's going on.
Yeah, so a little bit of context. I don't know if you've seen that documentary, but there was a documentary that came out a couple of years ago about the Smash Melee community. I think it might have just been more focused around the Smash community. And the guy that is making it is doing a re-release. This is something that's already out, by the way. All of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in this already happened. This is, again, just for context. But he is talking about how this video that is allegedly supposed to come out needs to be stopped and illegal, as illegal, he is saying.
He said.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the word he used. Yes,
illegal, essentially. And he is not. That's not the only time, by the way, that he's going to use the term illegal to explain something that he feels is wrong.
Going on. For those who don't know me, let me introduce myself and explain why you should trust this video. I've been in the Melee community for 16 years, having been a top player for many of those years. Throughout my career, I've proved myself to not only be a top player, but also a top influencer for the community. Although I only have a moderate following, I've helped the Melee scene make technological progress in at least 5 major ways. The most notable thing I've done is create an ergonomic controller called the Box.
So, are you familiar with box controllers?
I am. I'm familiar with this one too.
Okay. Yeah.
So Hacks was involved in making this thing?
He's the one who designed and made it, yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Now, chat, for those that don't know, the box was created because Hacks got, I believe he got like carpal tunnel syndrome in his hands. He could no longer play Smash. He had to retire early. And so he went and designed this box so that he could go back and start playing Smash again. So, what he's basically doing right now is he's coming out and saying, these are the things that I have done for the community. This is why I think that you should pay attention to what I have to say. Basically,
he's starting with his resume, pretty much.
Pretty much, yes. He is starting out by saying, these are the things that I have done to contribute to the community that I believe to be a force of good, basically. And the box being one of the biggest. Now, by the way, I looked this up. This thing isn't cheap. This is a couple $100s to buy, which, to be fair, it is a pretty custom box, and it is made for people. I would say that you shouldn't buy something like this unless you do have your hands kind of really fucked up, in my personal opinion. But this is a very expensive tool right here. This is you really want to have to play Smash a lot in order to buy something like this. Is kind of what I'm saying.
And even if you do, you'll have to relearn the game just because of how different this thing plays, how different this thing is used.
Yeah, here I'm gonna look it up.
From what I remember, it's the left hand, that's for movement. The top 4 buttons are for up, down, left, right. You use the bottom left buttons, like press 1 to crouch, press 1 to...
Oh, it's sold out. You can't
Like
even
to run.
order it right now.
It's sold out? Wow.
Where did I see the pricing for it? Because I swear I saw somebody say it was like $300.
I know a video that talked about it.
Oh no,
see.
I don't want to like spend time going through a video, but shopping. All right, well, I'm not going to spend too long looking for it. I just remember it being like extremely expensive. But like all you need to know, chat, is these kinds of controllers exist sometimes for people that are having issues with having trouble with playing the game in a normal pace, basically. So this is one part of his pedigree right here.
Thousands of Melee players now use in order to avoid injuring their hands and wrists. But I've also done several other things. In 2017, I advocated for in-game software mods that gave quality of life improvements to GameCube controller users. These were adopted later that year. Then, in 2019, I explained why Melee needed an anti-stalling rule called the ledge grab limit. This rule set change was approved shortly afterward as well. Later in 2019...
Now, I don't play a lot of Smash, period. I'm not very much into fighting games, but I guess that's like a very big deal to be for people in tournaments not being able to like hang on to the ledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just like as a quick explanation, the way it works is that when your character grabs into the ledge, they get frames of invincibility.
Yep.
And when you let go and then re-grab the ledge, you gain that invincibility back. So
Yep.
a strategy would be hit a guy once, run away to the ledge, stay on the ledge forever until the time runs out.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he was able to get rid of that, where it's like 5 or 8 ledge grabs before you have to get back on stage, and if you don't, you like
You forfeit.
you have to force a stock or something like that.
Yep, something like that.
So yeah, very useful. It's like to prevent stalling stuff.
Pretty much.
Very good change.
Pretty much. Clicking on it brings you the price even when it's sold out. Oh, I guess I just didn't click on it. Well, thank you, chat. It is $229.
Yeesh.
Again, if you've got like your fucked up hands, there you go.
For carpal tunnel, yeah, that's fine, but
Yep.
nah.
Yep, there you go.
I started hosting a weekly tournament series called Hacks' Nightclub, which showed people that it was viable to play Melee on LCD monitors. Through the use of the latest technology, my tournament series gave people a glimpse at what Melee might look like in the future. And finally, starting in 2020, I began making educational videos that taught people about intricate...
Yep.
Just to pause. The reason why that's big is because LCD monitors aren't as compatible with the old games, like with GameCubes. Like using the dinosaur TVs was always better because you never got any screen delay.
Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty big too.
No, it is pretty big too. Yeah, because like with regular controllers, there is a chance that if the controllers aren't that good, there could be screen delay, there could be issues. There is also an issue, I believe, with old controllers where, because of how they're designed and because Nintendo is really shit, controllers, there are chances that controllers won't go all the way over to the left or all the way over to the right. Like there's just like a little bit that isn't perfect. So like people would cut notches into their controllers so that they could get that full spin.
Exactly.
But with a controller that's digital, you wouldn't have that issue basically. So there's a lot of pluses and bonuses to having something like that.
Melee mechanics. All my videos went into great detail about mechanics that people had never heard of before and were fact-checked several times for accuracy. I recommend checking out those videos if you haven't already, because today's video will be somewhat similar. Something to know about all the innovations I just described is that they all...
Are we watching Hacks' video, not Technicals? Yes, we're watching Hacks' video first so that we can understand what we're getting into when we get to the Technicals video. Because I want to do a little bit more research into this, because a lot of people are just going to watch Technicals video, which I did watch the beginning of, and I realized I feel like I need a refresher on Evidence.Zip before we get to that. But like, I feel like before we even watch Technicals video, which I've had people give me mixed reactions on, we need to watch this. We need to understand what we're getting into, why the individual that we're watching today ended up the way he did in Technicals video.
Yeah, and just a little bit of like clarification in case you weren't here earlier, we're not going to be watching the entire video.
We'll try our best. We'll be skipping around though.
Okay.
Did I see the original upload? I did not, but I imagine it's on Twitter somewhere.
Went against the grain. These were all radical ideas at first, but I helped show that they were the right direction for the community to go in. Today's video will go against the grain as well. However, today's video will have to do with politics rather than technology. People may not realize
All right,
this.
now, off the bat, he is saying, I've done all these things. However, they were technical achievements. This is going to be completely the same. However, it's going to be dealing with politics instead of technical problems in the Smash community.
So everything you just said has nothing to do with what he's going to talk about.
Well, yeah, kind of, because like the idea that like, you know, you can translate all of the stuff that he did in that field, because it does sound like, from a technical standpoint, Smash is his wheelhouse, 100%, right, 110%. But if he's jumping into a new part of the Smash, because like my thought process when I listen to him talk like this is he thinks because he is the master and one thing is Smash, he should be okay to talk about everything. And it depends. Yeah, it depends on what you're going to do. Knowing the context I do about this, I feel like that was a huge miscalculation on his part. Absolutely massive.
Yeah, like I can predict it already. Like I agree. Where like if they've done achievements like this, they could know their stuff about the politics side. But if he doesn't, then it's gonna look pretty bad.
Well, here's the thing. He says politics. I'm just gonna give you a mini spoiler right now. There's no politics. Okay. There's really not politics. But he is going to inject politics in some form or fashion. Yeah, you'll see it when we get there.
But the Melee community's politics are in shambles right now. There's something unthinkably evil going on right in front of our eyes here within the Melee.
There we go. He did mention evil. So he mentioned there's something evil going on right now.
Yeah, a lot of words that are really like over-exaggerated. Like politics for Smash, evil, you know, like...
I want to ask you, what do you like with all of this going on? What do you think he's going to bring up? Because you're somewhat familiar with the Smash scene. What do you feel like it's going to be?
Based on what I know about Ultimate players, there's going to be accusations about people being PDF files. That's my best guess.
Okay.
That's honestly all I got.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Today's video will be tough to stomach, but the longer people remain ignorant, the worse the situation will get, so we don't have a choice anymore. The most difficult part about this video will be accepting that the evil I'm referring to is being perpetrated by a community leader. There's a quote that goes, "The greater the crime perpetrared by the leadership, the less likely that people will ever believe their leader's capable of perpetrating such an event." That is unfortunately a Hitler quote, but it's
that
Are you serious?
Yeah, he does. He does use a Hitler quote. Chat, we can invoke the Godwin argument right now. But yeah, he does invoke Hitler in this video within 5 minutes of the video starting. And so, from just going through this right here, he's saying that there is a cult leader, essentially, at the center of this political damage that's going on in the Smash scene. So one person is what he's going after right now. Okay?
So I guess, is he, like, comparing this guy to Hitler? And like indirectly?
He's going to have a lot of comparisons that he's going to make. All right?
All right.
How much anime have you watched, by the way?
A decent amount.
Okay, good.
That's very applicable to the current situation. There's a community leader who has caused this community to be filled with hatred, corruption, and greed, which are all things that the Smash community once didn't have. These things have become so normalized that the current generation of players doesn't even seem to realize what's going on, and that things weren't this way before. People are genuinely clueless that darkness has been cast over the entire Smash community, but hopefully this video will change that. Before I go any further, let me be clear about the magnitude of this video. This video is the final line of defense against someone who will continue to threaten the well-being of the Smash community, as well as surrounding esports communities if he isn't stopped. The situation will endlessly get worse to the point that it'll become...
He did say he, so he's mentioning that it is a male that is doing this.
Okay.
...comparable to a reign of terror within esports. I know this to be true based on 3 factors. The first one is psychology. I've studied psychology extensively in order to bring you this video, and I know exactly what type of cloth this person is cut from. I'll be explaining what constitutes a supremely evil...
No, exactly.
No, he studied psychology to make this video, so he is not like a learned person on this. I don't know what he did in order to go through that. Unfortunately, that's not something you could ask him, but I am going to imagine he spent a lot of time reading about psychology and formed opinions based off of what he read. I really don't know to his research. I'm not going to judge him based off of that, but it should be worth noting that he is not like a psychology major in any way, shape, or form.
Evil person, as well as how to spot one. I'll also be going over proven strategies for manipulating people, especially large crowds of people that have been used on several occasions. While it is bad that I'll be showing you how to manipulate people, it's worse for you not to know how the Smash community has repeatedly been manipulated. Finally, I'll be explaining how people with these personality traits view their so-called fans and supporters, and even some of the people who think that they're their friends. The next factor is history. I've been studying history so that I can show you that what is happening within the Smash community is one-to-one with what happened.
He studied psychology, and now he's also going to bring you history. Not like Smash history, but history.
Oh, real history.
Yeah, he's going to compare dystopian level events from history in his video, basically.
Okay, so
Also,
this
chat,
is where
stop
Hitler comes
spoiling.
from.
Chat, stop spoiling. All right, we'll get to it eventually. Don't read the chat.
Thank you for saying that, because like,
yeah, don't read the
I
chat.
love to read chat, but I want to be fresh whenever all this stuff.
Yep, don't read the chat, because I'm sure that you probably heard of the individual that he's going to mention, since you are familiar with Smash. But don't read the chat.
I've heard of him, but I just want to point out, we're 5 minutes into the video, and he hasn't said his name.
Yes.
And if I was just like a passive viewer seeing this video for the first time, I would have clicked off already. Just because my attention span would be gone.
Well, granted, I think the attention span hadn't been gone completely yet, but yeah.
Happened in societies that collapsed. We're setting ourselves up for a dystopia in more ways than people know, and an entire culture shift is going to be necessary to fix things.
Now, he talks about an entire culture shift as if we're like going to like the entire United States is going to fall apart, but no, what he's talking about is the Smash community's culture is going to change. I'm going to be completely honest with you. From what I've viewed from the Smash community culture, it's pretty toxic and destructive already, with a lot of bad individuals in it. So I don't really feel like the individual that he's going to bring up, I really don't feel like is going to like destroy the scene, unfortunately.
Finally, I'll piece everything together with classified information that nobody else has access to.
Right. So he's also going to reveal the DMs of people that he knows. He's got classified personal information of people that he trusts that he's going to reveal, which I don't recommend. All right, chat.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't reveal DMs unless you have to clarify something that people has said about you. If you have to disprove lies or not, but not for this. Not for this whatsoever.
Most importantly, you need to know the truth about Evidence.Zip, which is a collection of documents that was put together 8 years ago. Evidence.Zip is the red pill because it reveals an MO that hasn't changed and has only evolved.
Now, Evidence.Zip is a document that was made about the individual he is going to be discussing today. In the most simplest of terms, Evidence.Zip was basically saying, by the way, this guy's an asshole. This guy has done stupid shit. He's not like a groomer. He's not like a SA individual. However, this guy is an asshole, and we don't like him, is basically what Evidence.Zip is.
As time has gone on, the press has continuously lied to you about Evidence.Zip, and so you'll need to drop everything you currently know about it.
By the way, he also mentions the press. What he means by the press is the guy who made the documentary. The guy who made the documentary did kind of like a fluff piece on the individual that is going to be talked about.
Evidence.Zip will reveal that several events that have occurred in recent years were politically motivated in ways that the Smash community
also, he mentions that it was politically motivated as well.
Realized and that there was an agenda in motion the entire time. I'll also be backing everything up with my own personal experiences. I've been withholding a ton of information for this inevitable moment, and it's time to release all of it. Something I want to apologize in advance for is the fact that I'm going to betray several people's trust in me in order to bring you the full truth today.
Also, this is a very bad thing to admit. Again, I do not recommend sharing personal DMs with people of other people, because this could just some foreshadowing. This did make him suffer a little bit. I'm not going to reveal all of the suffrage that this man went through because of posting this, but because he decided to reveal personal information, because he went about the video in the way he did suffer in the Melee community because of that.
Private information must be leaked in order to tell the full story, and so I'm sorry to everyone who that affects. One last thing I want to go over is why I believe this is a groundbreaking video. This video is a case study for how a community can...
I forgot about that.
Sorry.
He's like, my video is groundbreaking. Again, I'm not gonna make too much fun of this, all right, chat? Not gonna, like, I look back at this and I'm like, this man is obviously crying for help right now, all right? Not gonna make too much fun, but don't say your video is groundbreaking like this. That's not what you should be doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep a straight face too, but that was that was parody. That was a really funny line. Like, even though it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
It will show how platforms such as Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube can be weaponized in the modern-day era of social media, and how laws should be implemented to ban certain strategies when it comes to these platforms. Similarly, this video will show how we, as a society, underestimate the impact of political and psychological crimes, and how we can't underestimate crimes that affect socioeconomics and people's mental health. It will also show how the esports universe provides the perfect platform for criminology, by constantly using the excuse...
I'm sorry. he's basically saying that the esports community itself is the perfect platform for criminals to imbibe in.
If someone is a heel, they become able to exploit their community endlessly without ever being held accountable. All these things are injustices that call for reform. Most notably, this video calls for an entire community to undo its way of thinking. There's a cult of personality that needs to be broken up within the Smash community, and I have a feeling it will be after people find out what they become a part of. This is a story of political and psychological warfare that took place in front of your very eyes over the course of the past decade. As the only person in the entire world capable of telling you this story, I know that I have to, as it has the potential to change the timeline we live in. 2 years ago,
I believe that Hacks realized how much he fucked up. Oh, I do too. I do 100% as well, which is why I'm not going to be as harsh on him as I normally would have, because I do think that he regretted definitely making it. But again, this is still something that I feel like we need to watch as context for the video that I want to watch later down the line. Basically. Yeah.
Esam emerged as a whistleblower who stated that he was tired of Leffen shaping the discourse.
All right, so he has now just mentioned the individual in question. Have you ever heard of Leffen?
Oh, I have heard of Leffen.
Okay, what do you know about Leffen?
He was one of the best players. I think that's what the title of the documentary was talking about, him being the god killer, or like being able to go toe to toe with the Smash gods at the time.
Yep, pretty much. But he was basically the way that I hear a lot of people talk about him is that he was the heel of the Smash community because of how he decided to act and how he decided to talk with people. And just some disclosure, chat. Hacks and Leffen hated each other. All right, they hated each other. And even I am kind of trying to figure out where this hatred kind of came from. But Leffen is a heel. Hacks does not like him. That's what you have to understand here.
Where he went within the Smash community, and having people blindly follow him as well. Esam's posts did incredibly well on Twitter and Reddit. They were clearly representative of something that lots of people had felt, but may not have had the platform or the courage.
I'm just gonna say 8,000 likes on Reddit is not really that much. Although I am not quite sure how big of a community Smash is. I just don't think that 8,000 likes is enough. Didn't Null say this video was a nothing burger? I think for the most part, yes. However, it is kind of important to look back on this video before you look forward on, because he even references it as well. So I feel like it's worth looking back just to show you where things came from before we get to the other video. If he lets those Discord DMs free, it will be the end of all of us. No, Trunks probably.
Courage to express. For those who don't know, Esam is an Ultimate player with about 150,000 followers nowadays, making him a notable influencer. Meanwhile, Leffen is a Melee player with about 300,000 followers, making him the current biggest influencer in the Smash community. Leffen's influence is the biggest when you consider not only his follower count, but also the credibility that's been assigned to him. It seems that whenever Leffen speaks, his opinions are regarded as factual, which is what led to Esam's frustrations. Unfortunately, Esam's feud with Leffen would eventually fizzle out. The two would become somewhat cordial with each other, and the concerns Esam raised would be forgotten. This is standard when you look at how a lot of feuds with Leffen go. One day someone will be beefing with Leffen, and then a few months later they'll be subjugated by him. This leads...
Whoa, subjugated. I trying to keep a straight face.
No, like here's the problem. I notice we're 45 minutes into a stream and we've only watched 8 minutes here. Here's what I will say, chat. I don't believe, as somebody who rats over just about everything in the VTuber community, I will tell you right now that I think that unless I had concrete proof of those two individuals also hating on each other, because right now I know that Leffen and Hacks hate each other. This whole video is proof that they hate each other. But when it comes to other individuals, I feel like saying that subjugated is a wrong term, because it could be just as much as, oh, they're beefing on Twitter because they want to hype up a next match, or maybe they had a disagreement, but then they made up. I don't feel like he makes it sound way more serious than it definitely is, basically. And that's one of the problems you're going to see, is that happens multiple times.
Leads to awkward relationships with Leffen that feel very forced. The reason this happens is because people eventually realize that...
Because I'm going to be honest with you, this does not look like a forced picture. Just doesn't really look like a forced picture, in my personal opinion.
It just looked like they were asked to pose for a camera.
Pretty much.
But not like it's not like they're like hovering their hands over each other's shoulders instead of, like holding on or anything. It's just like they just chill, casual.
Yeah, pretty much.
Beefing with Leffen will cause you to be at war for the rest of your life, and so they give up. Leffen then gets his way, and the cycle of abuse repeats itself. In Esam's case, a whistleblower who raised very valid concerns was lost when he decided that he wasn't willing to keep going. Because time is running out for the Smash community, I'd like to reopen the case. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why Leffen is a disease that can be expected to fully erode the Smash community as well as several other esports communities within the next 10 years. I say this as someone who has known Leffen for exactly 10 years and knows exactly how predictable his trajectory is in terms of both scope and malicious intent. The Smash community simply doesn't understand the crimes that Leffen has already gotten away with and will continue to get away with if the status quo is upheld. If you've
He's alleging that Leffen has committed crimes, basically. Again, this is very charged language. Very, very, very charged language. Also, chat, for those some people saying that gamers look weird, Leffen is Korean and fucking not Scandinavian. He's Korean and some form of European and Korean. So that's why he looks a little funky.
If you've read up on why Leffen was banned back in 2013, then it should be obvious that there's something fishy going on within the Smash community. When Armada issued Leffen's ban back then, he described Leffen as a chronic liar with no credibility whatsoever, and he encouraged people to always assume that Leffen is lying when he speaks badly of other people. Yet, 6 years later, and Leffen was able to terrorize the Ultimate community with opinions that people treated as factual. In the Melee community, there's a similarly strange disconnect. On one hand, there's the widespread belief that Leffen is a former villain who emerged as a hero, yet on the other hand, Leffen has clearly instilled fear into the current generation of players. This fear is entirely warranted when you consider that Leffen randomly attacks people with small follower counts, even going as far as to ignore their requests to be left alone. There seems to be no one truly safe from Leffen's wrath anymore, and so it makes sense for people to be on their toes.
By the way, there's 12 chapters in this video.
That's a big word.
It is. Totalitarianism, yeah.
Like, I feel like if I'm gonna if I keep on saying how big and excessive these words are, it's gonna get exhausting. So I'm gonna slow it down. But that's a really, really big word. That's a really charged word.
If you really want to get a full picture, we should also watch the Victims of Leffen video made by Technicals. I mean, you could send it to me, but I don't know if I would watch that before we get to this. I feel like this is a good enough primer before we get to before I want to get to that, which again isn't happening tonight. I need to go to work tomorrow. But all right, so we have evil, politics, and now crimes. Yes, chat. Yes.
There's only one type of society in which these disconnects exist, and that is
and again, because totalitarianism, he's going to include all of the fascist dictators.
totalitarian society. Under totalitarianism, it may not be entirely clear whether those in charge are truthful and heroic or not. This is because while they give their citizens a place to live, totalitarians deprive their citizens of basic rights by controlling the press, performing mass surveillance, and resorting to state terrorism, which is when the state attacks its own citizens in order to instill fear. The reality is that totalitarians are neither truthful nor heroic, but they make their citizens think they are in order to mobilize them. This is done through either manipulation or force. What totalitarians will commonly do is craft false hero narratives.
We can add Trump to this as well, because
there he is.
Because, you know, got to add all of the quote-unquote totalitarians.
Through the vilification of others. They'll create a problem and then they'll solve it for you in order to create the illusion that they're heroic. This is why it's important to take a look at where someone's hero status came from, as it could very well be a facade. In Leffen's case, what you'll eventually find is that his hero status was entirely self-engineered. Everything Leffen is remembered as a hero for was a political heist in ways that people didn't consider, and his motivations are much darker.
I would like to notify you guys, by the way, the quote-unquote hero that we're listening to, by the way, is just a Smash player. There is no heroes in this. We are just listening to him talk about Smash players winning at video games.
I was thinking that too. Like heroes, like he's saying these he's comparing like Hitler to Smash players. Like this isn't a society or anything. This is just like Smash esports. Like I'm a little at loss for words right now. Gotta be honest. Just I'm morbidly curious about the video. Like I want to keep watching.
No, yep, you're good.
And people realize.
Thank you for the. I will be reading all super chats at the end of this chat, by the way.
Oscillate between being villainous and heroic in the real world, and if you ever see a disconnect like this one, then it probably means then you've been duped. What happened here is a villain realized that hero status would be beneficial, and so he made it his goal to obtain it. If you look at the current state of the Smash community, it is in line with the totalitarian regime, and that is entirely because of Leffen. It's obvious that Leffen wants full control over the community based on several of his tendencies. A dead giveaway of Leffen's intentions is the fact that he blocks anyone who disobeys him on Twitter, to the point that he probably has thousands of people blocked. This strategy isn't being used by some random person.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, like he used the word disobey.
Yes.
Which is like crazy word to me. Crazy word to use here. Like, it's like he's saying that like Leffen is like giving out orders, like that people have to follow. And I don't know. I just don't like that. I just don't like how how he used that word.
Mm-hmm. No, I get you. So like the framing he's going to give you for this is going to be extremely wild. Can you guess why he's showing you people being blocked by him? Can you like wrap your head around that? If you don't, it's completely fine. But can you like figure out what he's gonna talk about here?
Beats me. Like honestly, just like
That's
that
fair.
word that he used. Like,
That's fair.
It kind of threw me for a loop.
That's fair. What if I told you? Hold on. Actually, we're just gonna keep playing.
Okay.
Neither. It's being used by the person with the highest follower count in the community. When you think about how dangerous this strategy can become over time, it should actually be illegal, and I'll explain why.
He did just insinuate, by the way, that blocking people on Twitter should be illegal.
What? Come on, man. That's. Is this what you're talking about? Is this
now,
why he was like what you're leading up to?
Kind of. Now, all right. If you are actually a politician, I kind of agree with you. Kind of. There's actually, I think, the lawsuit about that in the United States where politicians are being sued so that they don't block people. Leffen isn't a politician. He is a small-time creator on Twitter and on YouTube and Twitch. Wait, so he's comparing blocking to political imprisonment? No, it's even funnier. That's why I asked if you guys watched anime.
The beauty of Twitter is that no matter how few followers you have, you can always make an impact. This is because when someone makes a bad tweet, you can always make a very visible reply to it, which is why you see low follower accounts reissuing high follower accounts all the time. When enough people reply negatively to a tweet, the tweet can end up looking terrible.
That's
To the person
great.
with the high follower account,
really
people
good.
replying are like pests in this case. They're practically latching onto the tweet with a hookshot, and when enough of them do this, it can have a huge impact. However, what the person with the high follower account can do in response is block every single person who dissents from their tweets. I call this strategy pest control. Over time, pest control has a damaging effect on the population because of the way crowd psychology works. Let's say that there are 10 Leffen supporters and 10 Leffen dissenters to begin with. All 20 of these people have an equal right to free speech, and so Leffen's tweets are met with equal discourse on both sides. As time goes on, Leffen makes it clear that he will block every single person he views as a pest. The first thing this does is it scatters the Leffen dissenters. They can no longer reply to Leffen's tweets, which causes them to lose their power in numbers. Because the dissenters' personal profiles are powerless on their own, the supporters are now at an unfair advantage. At this point, the dissenters can choose to do one of three things. The first thing they can do is keep tweeting on their personal profiles, which, like I just said, has no impact. This leads to the second thing they can do, which is give up and stop tweeting. It is highly likely for a dissenter to choose this option once they realize that they will most likely just get harassed if they keep tweeting from their personal profiles. Unfortunately, this leads to the third option. If a dissenter wants to remain involved in the conversation, then they only have one real option, and that is to turn to the dark side. By mutinying into a supporter, the dissenter is...
Mutiny.
So he's saying that people are not talking badly about Leffen because they don't want to be blocked by him. Because by going against his voice, now to be fair, to a small extent, I kind of understand this because when you have the person at the top, if you speak bad about them, people are going to disassociate with you to some extent. I kind of understand that. However, I feel like the way that he is trying to go about talking about this is really bad.
able to regain power in numbers and avoid social isolation. When you think about the effect pest control has on crowd psychology, it deserves to be illegal. It is a mass manipulation strategy that looks to encroach on people's free speech, and the only reason we didn't realize it earlier is because social media is still new to us. The reality is that by performing pest control, someone with a large following can filter out anyone who disagrees with them, and turn their social media account into a cult gathering.
By the way, he's going to reference Trump so many times. It's like it's fine if you like or don't like Trump, but like he's going to do it so much. It's honestly kind of like making me think that he thinks that Leffen is actually Donald Trump.
Yeah, like at this point, he's like, is he saying that he's a Democrat at this point or something, or like
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That's the thing, is it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
it's just really funny that he has to keep referencing back to Trump, because that's what a lot of people did, is when they like, oh, I don't like this person, then all you have to say is, oh, they're Donald Trump. That's why they're unlikable. And it's whatever.
Yeah.
Pest control is nothing more than a censorship tool, and the fact that Leffen seems to have pioneered it speaks volumes. The next sign that Leffen wants control has to do with something called a preemptive defense. I'll eventually show you the article this excerpt comes from, but a preemptive defense is when someone goes out of their way to assure you that they're kind or trustworthy without any provocation from you whatsoever. Leffen happens to do this in his Twitch bio, where he states that he is honest to a fault. This is a preemptive defense that creates a false sense of trust between Leffen and his viewers, which he can then exploit. Another troubling statement in Leffen's...
I know, that's him saying basically that he'll tell you shit if he thinks that you deserve to hear it. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like,
that's what I say. I mean, I don't say that in my bio, but like I tell people like I'm extremely honest, so you know.
Yeah, and like honesty doesn't always mean being nice. Like I guess that's what he's trying to say here. I think it's kind of weird that he's saying it outright, but
yeah,
it's not like he's trying to to look nice. You know, like it's a weird point to point out. Like just a weird thing to point out. I don't know.
It is.
Bio is that he won't hesitate to ban trolls or idiots, which is nothing more than a delusion. In Leffen's mind, a troll or idiot is anyone who disagrees with him, which isn't normally what makes someone a troll or an idiot.
I will say that if you have to put in your profile that you will ban trolls and idiots, you're kind of a weak person in my personal opinion. Don't put that in your profile. Just like if you make a big deal, excuse me. If you make a big deal out of it, people are gonna be shit.
The worst part is that Leffen even goes as far as to make the people he views as pests fill out unbanned forms if they want to return to his sanctuary.
What?
By forcing people to display...
Unbanned forms is a normal thing on Twitch.
So, it is? Okay.
Yeah, people. There are... I mean, yeah, when you get banned from somebody's chat, you can fill an unbanned form, so, you know.
Okay, my mistake. I thought that he was saying that, like, if you want me to unban you on Twitter, then you could fill out a form. Like, fill out a form. But... he's talking about Twitch. Okay, I gotcha.
Yep.
Obedience, Leffen is able to corrode the minds of the masses even further. These types of crowd psychology tactics have a dangerous effect over time, and are responsible for the disconnect I showed you earlier. Over the course of a few years, it is possible for someone using these tactics to go from being a pathological liar to being widely considered trustworthy. In addition to manipulating large crowds, Leffen also hunts down anyone who disagrees with him on practically anything. He's known to quote retweet people with microscopic followings as to embarrass them, and pressure them to delete tweets that speak negatively of him. It is rumored that he even name searches himself in order to find these people. In 2016, Leffen showed how ridiculously far he was willing to go to censor people when a content creator named Magic Scrumpy made a video called Nerfing Fox. The video didn't even necessarily imply that Fox needed nerfs, it just explained what they would theoretically look like if they happened. When Leffen saw that Magic Scrumpy had even suggested that Leffen's melee character was overpowered, he immediately began tweeting and streaming to turn his fanbase against Magic Scrumpy. This led to long-lasting beef in which Leffen seemed to want to discredit Magic Scrumpy as a content creator entirely, and push him out of the melee community. Yet another thing I've noticed about Leffen is his Discord screen name, which is 2 dashes. This gives him alphabetical priority over everyone else. This private...
Okay, this is just...
Come on.
This is the part that... This is one of the very few thousand cuts where it's just like, okay, bud, this sounds way schizophrenic. I don't care if it's just dashes and puts them at the top of the screen, all right? Saying that he's doing that to get priority, like, unless he legitimately says, hey, I'm doing this to get priority over everybody else so that you have to see my name up at the front... I just it really dents his credibility by saying that.
Yeah, that's looking way too into it.
Which sucks because this guy is not a horrible person. He's just too scatterbrained, in my personal opinion, when it comes to this kind of shit.
Like, I don't know if Discord let you do this before, but can't you just like give yourself the admin role or something, and just like that way you could be up top?
If you are the owner of the server, yes.
Oh, so that's what it will look like in any server.
Probably. Well, I mean, like the bigger the server is, it does like once your server hits a certain amount of members, it does turn into different pairings, but kind of, yeah, pretty much. Like, if you look on our server, in my server right now, the top person outside. Oh wait, I'm looking in the Under the T server. Let's see. After me, yeah, it goes in alphabetical order. But if like my, yeah, pretty much. Anyway, let's continue.
for example, everyone uses their regular screen name, but Leffen uses a strategic one to make people aware that he's present. Similarly, if you've ever watched Summit's online Melee events, then you probably noticed that Leffen's always commentating from a TV screen that is front and center. It seems that no matter where you go these days, Leffen is always watching, and everybody knows it.
He was right.
Yeah. Funny enough, yeah. I think the scariest thing was when I did the pivot forward smash, because like I immediately thought, oh no, Leffen's doing commentary. He's gonna get better.
Finally, the premier Melee podcast is called the 6-4 Podcast, which is named after...
I'm sorry, can you pause for a second? So his point there was the interviewers are making him viewable on the screen during the interview.
I guess.
I don't know.
I feel like that's not real. That's kind of like a tiny point, but yeah.
Yeah, that's just a really weird point. I don't know. That does not sit well with me at all. That's
Propaganda
really
that
weird thing
Leffen
to focus on.
Yeah.
pushed onto the Melee community. He hosts this podcast alongside Mango and Zane, so you don't have much of a choice but to watch it if you want to hear what they have to say. There's something fishy going on in the Melee community, and no one wants to talk about it. When you consider how ridiculous the lengths to which Leffen has gone to control community rhetoric are, it truly feels like a surveillance program. All of this happened gradually, but surely enough, it happened. The fact that not many people noticed it happening shouldn't surprise you either, when you consider that it's standard for totalitarianism to creep up on you. As the author Pat Miller explained in the book Willfully Ignorant, the best way to take control over a people and control them utterly is to take a little of their freedom at a time, to erode rights by 1,000 tiny and almost imperceptible reductions. In this way, the people will not see those rights and freedoms being removed until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed. This quote describes exactly what happened to the Melee community. Aside from controlled rhetoric and surveillance, the status quo of Melee is totalitarian in several other ways. The state terrorism I mentioned earlier serves a purpose, and that purpose is to instill fear in a population. As explained by an article titled The Manufacturing of Mass Psychosis, fear destabilizes a population and makes them easier to control. By instilling fear, the population is primed for the crime of menticide, which means the killing of the mind. The best way to do this is to use waves of terror, which is when periods of fear are staggered with periods of calm in order to keep people on their toes. The article also warns that never before in history has there existed such effective technology for mass manipulation. Nowadays, social media allows people to quickly censor the flow of unwanted information. The same people who instilled fear can then offer a return to normalcy through a never-ending stream of propaganda. However, this comes at the expense of people's freedom. Once you realize that all the strategies I just listed are emanating from the same person, it becomes clear that a handbook is being followed. Leffen's inevitable tendency to feud with people at random has given him a hostile aura that people tend to want to steer clear of.
So he's basically saying that Leffen is following a playbook in order to hostilely take over the Smash scene. He has studied Hitler, Stalin, and Lenin, and now Donald Trump in order to become the king of Smash.
It's like, yeah, like the way that he's phrasing it, it's like he thinks Leffen went out of his way to research Hitler and Stalin and their tactics to use those tactics on the Smash community. That's really weird. that's a really weird.
No, I agree.
I don't know.
The same exact person then floods the community with censorship, propaganda, and surveillance that we've come to
It's just
accept as.
Twitter. Okay, I'm okay.
It's what?
It's just Twitter. That's all it is. It's just Twitter. It's not a society which he has full control over. He's not Mr. Smash Brothers. He isn't the king. He's one of the players. That's all he is. And maybe he's trying to say that like because of how much of an influence he has on the community. That's why he's saying that he's like the dictator. But that doesn't sit right. That does not sit right with me at all.
No, I get what you mean.
As the norm. This pattern of behavior has only ever meant one thing historically, and none of it is a coincidence. Leffen gives off so many red flags that he's attempting totalitarianism that they're almost too easy to find. For example, one of his very first social media bios expressed genetic superiority, which is often a sign of a cruel and dehumanizing leader. Another example is the fact that Leffen has no respect for authority. He has, in fact, looked to embarrass authority on several occasions, despite the fact that we wouldn't have a scene without them.
Welcome. Thank you, but I'm not happy until every aspect of godhood is like torn away, and there's only one god, and that's me.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I am 110% sure that Leffen was making a joke there. All right? 110%. This man is taking it seriously, but that is a joke. It's a 100%
Yeah, people
joke.
laugh too.
Exactly.
I heard some laughs in the background.
Mm-hmm.
When interviewed in 2015, Leffen made it clear that he was intent on becoming the one true god of Melee, and that he wouldn't be satisfied until every aspect of godhood was torn to shreds.
He's taking
This made
it
for great
seriously.
entertainment at the time, and so people didn't stop to consider the real meaning behind it. The biggest red flag of all, however, is something that no one would have ever guessed. Many studies have shown that once...
Okay. We have to pause, all right? 'Cause this article is fucking insane, in my personal opinion here. All right? This article says that your avatar profile picture tells a lot about your personality in it. So my profile, like I'm looking at my Discord profile picture, it's just a yippee in glasses. My profile picture is that I am a little retarded creature that doesn't know what she's doing. I'm gonna be honest, that is actually pretty accurate. So
yeah,
chat.
I'm just like, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just me. I just have my VTuber guy. I had a friend do some fan art of my guy, and so I liked it, so I put it on. That's all.
Yeah.
Nothing else to it.
Yeah, but like, what does your personality say about you being a robot?
I gotta be honest. I didn't put that much thought into it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not gonna say it here in armchair psychology, but it's like something that this article. This is like a 2014 profile, basically talking about how your pictures on your social media is what defines you as an individual. I am a Piplup. There you go, Jack.
Personality can accurately be inferred from their social media avatar. If you think about the process that goes into choosing an avatar, this is obviously true. People will often use avatars of anime characters that represent their inner beliefs, which is why I need to raise an issue with something.
Is this why you mentioned
Why did
anime?
Leffen used to use an avatar of Light Yagami from Death Note?
Okay, so this is... So, for a while, Leffen used a picture of Light Yagami. And now he is going to infer that because Leffen used a picture of Light Yagami as his profile picture, he is going to infer that Leffen is Light Yagami.
I'll be honest. Sorry, chat, but I haven't seen the show. I know it's a classic. I know it's like a must-watch for anime. But even though I haven't watched it, I know who he is. I know who Light is.
Well, you know the story, right?
I do know the story.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the story at least.
Okay.
But what if he just thought the profile picture looks cool? Because it does look cool, especially with the white background, which just like blends into Twitter.
Yeah. Chat's picking up Leffen is the god of a new world. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's something that Light said in some kind of fashion. Guess I'm an Ellen from Terra. Yes, exactly, chat. Exactly.
2016. If you understand who Light Yagami is, then it makes all too much sense when you consider everything else that I've told you. Light is a brilliant high school student on the outside, but an infamous political criminal on the inside whose goal is to become the god of the new world. He's able to remain undetected for many years by outwitting everyone in his way. Essentially, Death Note is the story of a totalitarian regime that ends up casting darkness over the entire planet. The story that's unraveling right before our very eyes is strikingly similar to Death Note. The Death Note is a book that can be used to issue death sentences simply by writing someone else.
So he is now going to compare the Death Note to Leffen in real life. All right. And I'm going to tell you right now, it makes no fucking sense.
Else's name down. Should this tool fall into the wrong hands, it would terrorize an entire society. The funny thing is, Leffen is basically trying to turn his phone into the Death Note. Through the use of modern technology and a good understanding of crowd psychology, it's actually possible to create a Death Note nowadays.
Something in my throat.
And people need to be wary of that.
So,
okay.
I think he's going to explain it more here. But what he is essentially trying to say is he is using the block feature on Twitter as a Death Note.
Yeah, I figured he was going to say that, honestly. But even when he said it outright, I didn't think he was going to say it so blatantly.
No, yeah, and that's him blatantly saying it.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. All right.
Now we're on to chapter 2 here.
If you look at the avatars and professional photos that Leffen has used over the years, there's something in common with many of them. They're pitch black. Pitch black in terms of not only color, but tone as well. He has used avatars of demonic characters and pictures of himself grinning deviously, facing away from the camera while wearing a long black trench coat, being covered in shadows, etc. The Smash community lets Leffen play this off as though it's a villain persona, but what they fail to realize is that this all started long before Leffen was anyone relevant in the scene. Ever since Leffen's very first Smash Boards avatar, he has presented himself this way. You might be wondering why all of these troubling signs seem to be coming from the same person, so I'll give you the clinical explanation. In psychology, there's...
I'm going to be honest, I don't wonder. Sometimes people use dark profile pictures because it's kind of cool looking and edgy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hello, Gator.
a concept called the Dark Triad that consists of 3 antisocial personality traits: narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. These traits are strictly malevolent and can be thought of as the very definition of evil itself. They are what compel people to commit crimes, and they are bound to result in social distress and severe problems for an organization, especially if the Dark Triad is given a leadership position. This is because Dark Triads are ruthless manipulators who will claw their way to the top at anyone's expense. They're also interpersonally skilled, which means that while they themselves are cold, Dark Triads are good at understanding other people's emotions and thought processes. The next thing to know is that Leffen is technically not a Dark Triad, but a Dark Tetrad. The Dark Tetrad is a...
So,
Whoa.
he spends all that time to explain the Dark Triad, but then he says, actually, he's not a Triad. He's this extra special shape as well that includes sadism.
No.
Yeah.
I guess he would
Slightly modified.
maybe he expected us to know what a triad was, for starters, and say, oh, you think it's a thing you know already. No, it's this bigger, ultra mega one. I don't know what a triad is. I never heard of this before, so...
It's a psychology thing.
Okay. That's completely lost on me.
Yeah. I thought the Triad was yellow.
modified form of the Triad that doesn't get talked about as much. The difference is that it adds sadism to the list. Sadism refers to the tendency to derive pleasure from inflicting pain, suffering, or humiliation onto others. Not all Dark Triads are sadists, but Leffen certainly is. This is obvious based on his fake yawns and patronizing pats on the back, as well as the way he conducts himself online on a regular basis. In 2012, Leffen...
No, that's just his character. He's an asshole.
Yeah, he's a
He's just an asshole.
He's being silly about it. The other guy was smiling too. It didn't look like he was offended or anything. Maybe he thought something, but that's just his character. He's a performer. He's performing for the audience watching him. He's playing for the crowd.
Mm. And he even says here, the reason I act like a douche on the internet is because I enjoy seeing people rage over the internet. That's like what an asshole does. That's not like him being like a horrible, evil person. That's just him being an asshole.
Yeah, it's being an asshole, but at least it's not like he's going up to like people in the park to do this kind of stuff, right?
No.
Or like it's the internet, so I don't know. Maybe like to me that feels like it's like not as harmful because it's on the internet only, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Openly confessed to sadism when he stated that he acts like a douche on the internet because he enjoys seeing other people rage, and that doing so colors these empty words. So, how do I know that Leffen isn't just a sadist, but a Dark Triad as well? There are a lot of ways to tell. For one, the Dark Triad is the motivating factor behind the totalitarian behavior I described earlier. There's also the fact that studies have shown that trolling and debating issues when posting online signal not only sadism, but also the Dark Triad. Leffen constantly...
Chat, I think we unfortunately have to, I unfortunately have to tell you, I think that I am a Dark Triad because I like to troll people occasionally. I think I might be a Dark Triad.
Uh-oh.
Might be.
engages in both of these activities. The correlation skyrockets with trolling in particular, which is what Leffen was originally known for. Part of what this video will do is blow the doors open on the fact that this isn't just a villain persona, but who...
By the way, he's still mentioning what this video is still going... We're 23 minutes in, and he's still mentioning what this video is supposed to do.
Really is.
Oh, I
so you'll need to
forgot.
understand the Dark Triad.
He's leaking DMs in here. I forgot about that.
Eventually, yes.
The community needs to hear this information, because at this rate, it'll continue to funnel resources into Leffen, and so people need to know who they're supporting. As I said earlier, the Dark Triad consists of 3 traits: narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. Although these traits are often depicted as a triangle, it is more accurate to depict them as a Venn diagram, since they all have...
Adding more shapes. I forgot about this.
There's too many diagrams, man. I can't.
overlapping qualities. Furthermore, having even one of these traits makes it much more likely to have the rest. The way the Dark Triad works is as follows. Narcissism isn't too malevolent on its own, but it mixes horribly with the other 2 traits, making it highly malevolent in the end. This is because narcissism can be thought of as self-admiration to the point that it can be considered a disease. A narcissist needs to be the center of attention at all times, and will go to great lengths to make sure it happens. They can't take any form of criticism either, and are highly insecure about their appearance. Narcissists will also engage in bad faith arguments just to abuse people. They will use faulty argumentation and lies as much as necessary to avoid losing an argument. The next trait is psychopathy, which is the most malevolent of the 3 traits. Psychopathy is characterized by antisocial behavior, which means behavior that violates the rights of other people and disrupts society. Psychopaths are also impulsive, selfish, unemotional, and remorseless. Finally, Machiavellianism refers to an ends justifies the means philosophy that involves exploiting and manipulating people in order to gain power. Machiavellians are absent in morality and have a high degree of self-interest. They believe in status over everything and will go
I just political in quotes, even though you didn't say it.
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable lengths in order to obtain it. Machiavellianism is the most important trait to keep in mind throughout this video because if you think about it, it's the only one that isn't visible. Everything else on this list is visible if you know what to look for, but you wouldn't know how someone like Leffen has exploited the Smash community in order to serve his own interests. Among all of these traits, there are several things they have in common. Dark Triads are low in agreeableness and extremely neurotic, which means they're constantly moody and angry. They also lack consciousness and empathy, which means they can't put themselves in the shoes of other people. The most important trait by far, though, is that Dark Triads are pathological liars. This is because all of their overarching traits benefit from lying. Earlier on, I showed you the term preemptive defense, which Leffen does by stating that he is truthful to a fault in his Twitch bio. The article this excerpt is from is titled 20 Diversion Tactics Highly Manipulative Narcissists, Sociopaths, and Psychopaths Use to Silence You. The article lists plenty of strategies Leffen uses on a regular basis if you scroll through his Twitter feed. These include gaslighting, nonsensical conversations, generalizations, misrepresentations, aggressive jabs described as jokes, a condescending and patronizing tone, and shaming. I'm not going to provide examples of these because you can easily find them by scrolling through Leffen's Twitter feed for even a few seconds. However, there's something called projection that I want to take a moment to go over since it's a little more complicated. Projection or psychological projection is when someone insults other people by displacing things that they know to be true about themselves.
Oh, I know that the next chapter is the Evidence.Zip one, which we're not going to go through because I'm just going to give you a brief overview of it. I just wanted to see where it ends because I forgot where it ends.
Yeah, like I thought you were like looking for the next chapter, like to skip this college lecture that he's giving us right now.
Yeah,
he's teaching all these words and they're coming through one ear and going out the other.
Okay, all right, I'm ready. All right, we're good.
Projection is a defense mechanism that is used to avoid accountability, and in the case of truly horrific people, it can be very abusive. This is why when Leffen called Magic Scrumpy a cheater, he didn't just call him a cheater. He called him a cheater with a victim complex. It's also why Leffen told Esan that he only cares about things that benefit him, why he called Hungrybox a sociopath, and why he's referred to me as his stalker. Every single one of these tweets needs to be interpreted in the reverse direction because they're all projections, and once you understand that, it becomes clear how wicked of a person Leffen really is. The problem is that not everyone is familiar with projection, and so people actually side with Leffen when he says these things. As you can see, the signs that Leffen is a Dark Triad have been right in front of us the entire time. Now that you're viewing things from this perspective, I'll show you some examples of each of the 3 Dark Triad traits, starting with Machiavellianism.
Hey guys, it's Leffen here again. I forgot to mention that I'm going to be doing a charity stream this Friday. It's going to be for RAIN, which is the biggest anti-sexual violence charity in the United States.
The video you're watching is blatantly insincere just based on the way Leffen raises his voice. He's speaking in a high-pitched voice because he knows that he needs to appear friendly and charitable.
Now, to be fair, I did listen to this guy normally, and yes, he's obviously acting. Yes, he's obviously doing some acting, but it's probably because normally Leffen is used to environments where it's more live, more raw, less curated. He is in a situation right now. He is in a situation where he is able to sit down. He's able to doll himself up better. He's able to make himself sound better. And that's what everybody does when they get in front of a camera. So I just these are digs. There's nothing actually meaningful. I agree. A lot of this stuff is not really meaningful.
Yeah. And like from experience of like having to do homework assignments where I have to record myself for something, it's so much harder to record in front of a camera than it is to just talk in front of people. So like maybe he's just not used to it, and that's why he sounds a little bit weirder than he usually does.
Possibly.
In this moment, and he doesn't actually feel those emotions. We can't forget that this is the same person who was once banned for being a chronic liar with a manipulative personality, and that this slip-up isn't merely a coincidence. Moving on to narcissism, take a look at this post Leffen made in 2011. Someone had listed a bunch of Melee sets they recommended watching, and they just so happened to sort Leffen's sets individually rather than grouping them. Leffen then commented that he liked how the way the sets were sorted placed more emphasis on himself, which is an extremely narcissistic comment to make. Additionally, Leffen
it's a joke, though. That's the thing, is I don't think he's being serious.
Yeah, like he's like his personality, like his internet front is an asshole. I'm like that's a funny asshole thing to say. But I do wonder, like I am having somewhat second doubts or something. Oh, actually, wait a second. It says here he's Sweden, not Korean. Oh.
Well, he's Swedish and Korean. He's got he's got a mix of both in there.
Okay, well, like as I was saying, the way that this guy is talking is it makes me take this so not seriously that I'm automatically thinking this is all these are all just jokes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I can't really think of the what if approach just because of how ridiculous this is. Just because of how ridiculous he's portraying it. Like not on purpose, but
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like to me, it all just looks like a joke to me.
No, I know what you mean. I get what you mean.
Refers to himself as an icon in his Twitter bio and has several heavily edited photos of himself that uphold that belief.
Which is something that, like, this makes me wonder if Hacks has never taken like a picture of himself that he edited on Instagram. It's just like people do that all the time. I mean, like, I'm not a model that shares my picture on the internet, but like if I did, I would doll myself up. Sorry, I would.
Lastly, I'll show you an example of psychopathy. The fact that Leffen used to state that he is really mean in his social media bio is an indicator of psychopathy in itself, but I want to give you a real-world example. When I beat Leffen at Genesis 7, I was wearing a red pair of Adidas pants with white stripes on them. These pants would become synonymous with my run at that tournament. A few months after Genesis 7, someone sent me a picture they took of Leffen streaming. Leffen was wearing a red Adidas shirt with white stripes on its sleeves while
Okay.
Come on. Wait,
So-
yeah, come on.
This is kind of schizo behavior in my personal opinion. He is saying because he beat Leffen in a game of Smash wearing red Adidas pants, Leffen sometime later bought a red Adidas shirt that also has the same stripes just to get on him. Just to get on him.
Yeah,
editing a digital control.
Huh?
the fact that like this happened like months after, like this, like it looks like I don't even know what the stream is about, but I'm sure it's not about a tournament or anything because he has the box on there.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he looked at this stream and immediately linked that shirt to that set, I think you're right. That's pretty schizo.
Now I will say, chat. People bring up good points that Leffen really isn't the best the guy to give the most good faith. He is an asshole. I've seen a lot that's just like, yeah, he is. Like, there's a lot of legitimate grievances. It sounds like you can bring up. All right, there's a lot of good legitimate reasons. However, all of them are going to be mired down by this guy and how he chooses to bring that information. If that makes sense.
Controller's button layout. Again, this wasn't a coincidence. It was a psychopath's way of showing that he wants revenge. Needless to say, the behaviors you're going to find in this video are completely bizarre, but you might be wondering why I'm making this video now. I'm making this video now because the status quo of Melee is becoming increasingly dystopian, and I've been growing increasingly discontent with it. It seems that instead of opposing the Dark Triad...
Again, it still feels like we're in the beginning because he says, this is why I'm making this video.
We've actually embraced it as part of our culture. When Leffen randomly attacks people from other gaming communities, for example, we watch and laugh. Then, our content creators turn it into the latest news. This leads to other communities telling us to take Leffen back to the shithole he came from. Even worse is the fact that we built a bot off of Leffen's AI and used it to broadcast his mindset to thousands of people. Once you realize why the people behind Deep Leffen Bot found Leffen's personality so fascinating, it's actually a lot more dystopian than it looks. Above all else, though, there was something that happened recently that drew the line for me, and it had to do with the filmmaker named Samox. For those who don't know, Samox is the director behind the original Smash Bros. Documentary that turned Melee into a major esport back in 2013. In 2020, Samox returned to us with a new documentary called Metagame, which covered the newer generation of Melee players. However, Metagame wasn't received nearly as well, largely due to what people viewed as Leffen's character assassination. Samox had chosen to show footage of Swedes who knew about Evidence.Zip, and Leffen didn't like that. Even though Metagame didn't reveal too much about Evidence.Zip, it was still the current generation's only glimpse at the truth, and Leffen made it clear that he wanted it taken down. At first, Leffen complimented the first few episodes of Metagame for how incredible they were, but when the episodes that talked about Evidence.Zip aired the next day, everything changed. Leffen frantically began to tweet about Metagame every several minutes. His tweets suggested that Evidence.Zip was a conspiracy, and that Metagame was a terrible documentary for assassinating his character. Leffen tweeted so frequently that he seemingly went insane. He just went on and on and on, and it felt like there was no end. The next terms I'm going to introduce...
Now, to bring that up, the documentary was edited. Leffen, complained like a bitch on Twitter because they showed his ban, which was the Evidence.Zip stuff, where he was acting like a little shit when he was 15. Now, I do think, in the words of Better Call Saul, that you probably shouldn't judge people based off of how they acted when they were kids, because when they were kids, people can probably do some very stupid stuff. And with that in mind, I still think Leffen was acting like a shitheel, and he should have just eaten the fact that that happened to him. And he could have turned it around into a better moment, but instead he pressured this guy to edit out that part from the documentary. So that's a point where it's just Leffen is not the best guy either, because he also does stupid shit, and that is a legitimately stupid grievance in my personal opinion.
Are called narcissistic injury and narcissistic rage. Narcissistic injury occurs when a narcissist perceives something as a serious threat to their self-esteem. It will happen if the narcissist feels that their true self has been revealed, and the people have caught on to their hidden behaviors and motivations. This triggers narcissistic rage, which is when a narcissist goes insane and becomes extremely violent. Narcissistic rage happens at the end of Death Note when the police force finally close in on Light Yagami, the mastermind behind years of political crimes that terrorize the world. After realizing that he's been caught, Light begins to laugh like a maniac and contort his body in strange ways while the police force watch in awe.
そうだ僕がキラだ
In real life, the way narcissistic rage works is it has two phases. The first phase is an angry outburst, and the second phase is a self-aimed wrath. This means that the narcissist will actually degrade themselves, as to suggest that the way they've been insulted is preposterous. Leffen did this toward the very end of his rage when he tweeted a picture of his face edited onto a Dementor, which is a creature from Harry Potter that drains peace, hope, and happiness from the world around it. Although people saw this tweet as sarcastic,
Yeah, yeah.
it was actually a lot more telling than they realized. The way Leffen responded to Metagame rallied the community in back of him, which put extreme pressure on Samox. Just a few hours after these episodes aired, Samox had already been forced to issue an apology statement assuring people that re-releases of Metagame would be censored to remove all Evidence.Zip footage. Many people called this out as revisionist history, but their voices were ultimately drowned out. The problem with this entire situation is that if you think about it, Samox was screwed ever since the moment he decided to cover Leffen at all. This is because Samox could have gone in one of two directions with Metagame. The first one was to tell the truth, which is what he did. Samox is a professional filmmaker who's probably never not told the truth in his career, and so he approached the situation the same way as usual. But what Samox didn't know is that he was catering to an audience that had never heard the truth about Leffen before, and couldn't believe the truth when they heard it. This caused Samox to...
Alternatively, they probably just don't care, all right? Because, yeah, a lot of people probably did hear about it, but they probably just don't care, in my personal opinion. I think a lot of people probably just really just like, why? It doesn't matter. So in my personal opinion, yeah, the guy shouldn't have edited it out. Should have told Leffen to go suck ass, basically. But he was kind of a bitch as well and decided to remove it. So
break his obligations as a filmmaker by agreeing to censor the truth. On April 24th, Samox doubled down by announcing that he'd be returning in June with a new episode of Metagame that would focus on Leffen, as well as new interview footage. In other words, propaganda. This announcement is the pinnacle of how dystopian the Melee community has become. Rather than hear the truth, we would prefer to rewrite history in a way that glorifies people who don't deserve it. It's gotten to the point that we'll ostracize filmmakers who try to do the right thing for us, and make them come crawling back to us with propaganda in order to redeem themselves. After seeing what happened to Samox, I realized that this community was desperately in need of some factual information, and so I decided to make this video.
Oh, stop saying why you decided to make the video.
Here in the first place was through propaganda.
Oh,
TSM
so
and Red Bull
now
committed
it
one of the
finally
biggest
comes full circle. 33 minutes into the video.
Yeah, pretty much. But still, stop mentioning why you made this video. Just say it once in the beginning.
Yeah,
esports history when they decided to erase the truth about Evidence.Zip and lie to people.
I could see why people call this a nothing burger, because like he's treating like him overreacting to Leffen overreacting to his to the documentary, like spamming tweets as he watched it. Yeah, honestly, I think that's a pretty solid piece of evidence. But he's treating that the same level as the pants thing. So because of that, I can't take it as seriously. So to me, that's why it feels like such a nothing burger right now.
No, I agree.
Instead, the documentaries, interviews, and articles that these companies have put out in the past several years are nothing short of the most aggressive brainwashing campaign I've ever witnessed. It's almost as if nothing the media has told you is true. Leffen sponsors have made it seem as though he's a cheerful and positive role model, and they've had friends and family members testify on his behalf as well. This false narrative is amplified by interviews with other community members who know nothing about the truth either. Red Bull even titled their documentary series Evidence.Zip and portrayed Leffen's ban as a hero story, as if he was a phoenix rising from the ashes. It gets worse when you consider that Leffen surely influenced the narrative of these documentaries and had final say over all of them. Now we're somehow at the point where on the
obviously, I mean, it's not like a surprise.
Last one left in Smash who knows the truth.
Yeah.
I promise you that after I tell you the truth, every single piece these companies have ever put out about Leffen will be remembered as political terrorism.
Political terrorism.
He calls a documentary about Leffen political terrorism. Yes.
Back when I showed you the quote that explains how totalitarians gradually encroach on human rights.
Huh?
I'm eating, by the way.
No,
if
you're
you
good.
hear me chewing, then
no, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Just mute when you and unmute when you want to say something.
Okay.
There was an implication that things can reach the point where it is too late. This is why the quote reads, "Until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed." If you look at the current state of the media, the Smash community is rapidly approaching a checkmate situation. Leffen has professional propaganda, a social media sanctuary they created by blocking thousands of people, and a podcast named after his rhetoric. He will mob you on Twitter if you speak his name, and he has successfully defamed YouTubers whose views weren't in line with his. He's also on your TV screen when you tune into tournaments he isn't playing in. What the community is now agreeing to do is erase the one shot they had at learning the truth and replace it with propaganda instead. The situation Samox has been forced into in order to appeal to this community is catastrophic and goes to show how corroded we've become. Sandbox is a filmmaker who's been pressured to succumb to totalitarianism, but people don't realize that. People don't realize that they're witnessing the
No, he's just being a bitch and choosing to censor this because Leffen decided to be rude to him. And he should have not been a bitch and told Leffen to go pound sand, basically.
death of their free speech. Totalitarianism can be thought of as building a car. The goal is to create an empire in which everything is automated, but the hardest part is giving that empire 4 wheels and an engine. The empire needs things like a brainwashed population, means of instilling fear, loyalty, and the abolition of free press. From there, it can operate smoothly. There is no doubt that the abolition of free press is one of the most necessary steps toward these types of societies. The first thing people need to realize is that none of this is a drill. Leffen is attempting totalitarianism, and that's going to become clearer and clearer as this video goes on. The second thing people need to realize is that there is still time. Leffen may have conquered the press, but he can't undo the information I'll be giving you in this video. Once people find out what the Smash community has become, I'm hopeful that things will change.
Oh, he just included Fidel Castro in here as well.
Oh my
For
god.
now,
I
I'll be
didn't
listing
know this.
totalitarianism as the first of many charges against Leffen.
Okay, so now he's going to list all of the things that he feels like Leffen should be arrested for, basically.
Hmm.
Oh, that was just
That's
one of
it?
them, excuse me.
Oh,
All right, so this is Evidence.Zip. We're not going to go through Evidence.Zip. We're going to skip through it. All you need to know is that Leffen said some pretty stupid, shitty stuff back when he was young, and it was not good, basically. And he got banned from the scene, and because of that, yeah. So it was really a lot. He got banned for a while. He was also a teenager. Now he's an adult. He says he's better, and so bam, boom, there you go.
like you said about Better Call Saul, like, I forgot exactly what you said, but just like,
You shouldn't be charged you shouldn't be like held accountable for the things you kind of do as a kid, unless it's
Exactly.
incredibly
And yet-
egregious.
I'm sure that he hyper focused on every single thing in the Evidence.Zip, trying to like support that Leffen is a Hitler, but he was 15, so
Yeah.
that's rough, man. I don't know.
You should also know about what happened directly after Evidence.Zip, because the press has lied to you about that too. Directly after Leffen was banned, he made it clear that Evidence.Zip was a conspiracy and that he'd been wronged. He even said that he wanted to leave his past behind and cut ties with the Smash community. But on March 21st, 2013, Leffen had a change of heart. He suddenly decided that he was sorry for everything, and he confessed to several of the things that he had done, citing depression and anxiety as the motivating factors. The apology Leffen issued got covered by the Score Esports' documentary on him from 2018, which has 1.5 million views. It's the apology that people cite to this day, and the one that people believe is real. What the people who read Leffen's apology didn't know was that they had been manipulated. On the exact same day Leffen issued his apology to North America, he also issued statements on the Swedish forums that warned them that they had defied him. Last year I talked with one of the Swedes who testified for Evidence.Zip about the fact that Leffen's apology was insincere. Although the Swedish forums are no longer accessible, he confirmed that Leffen's apology was fake. This is
So this is not like submitted with any evidence. Allegedly, because like Leffen came onto the scene and was like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry for what I did. It was really dumb of me." And he's saying that allegedly one of the people that testified for the Evidence.Zip thing, allegedly that he was not actually sorry. He's better but still never changed, basically.
made even more obvious by an excerpt from the letter to Genesis 3 staff, which explains how Leffen initially responded to being banned over in Sweden. The excerpt explains that Leffen had condemned the Swedes to the point that he seemed to want to take revenge on them. The excerpt also warns the reader that Leffen is someone who will endlessly claim victim status in order to evade accountability, which is exactly what he did in his fake apology. 2 weeks after Leffen's fake apology, a tournament called Beast 3 was held in Sweden. Beast 3 was the first notable tournament that Leffen was banned from, and so the Swedes who'd been abused by him were looking forward to their first Leffen-free tournament. But what people don't know is that Leffen actually showed up to this tournament in person and tried to convince the TOs to let him in. Leffen didn't seem to understand that he was actually banned from Beast 3, and so the TOs had to physically deny him entry. Around the same time, I was emailing Mr. Wizard about banning Leffen from EVO 2013. I was transparent about the
Now,
Oh,
that
you tried.
that is a point of contention because this was back in 2013, and he tried to get him banned. He tried to get him banned because he knew that he was also banned in Sweden. I do not know if this is like the beginning of the hatred campaign. If it is, technically it is Hacks'. I don't think it is, but like Hacks definitely like opened up a can of worms by doing this.
the fact that this was a complicated case and that it wasn't going to be easy to convey why a ban was necessary. Unfortunately, the EVO staff would end up rejecting the case on the basis of no physical assault, which is exactly what I feared would happen. A few months later, I flew to Vegas for EVO 2013. The first night I got there, I dropped my bags off in my hotel room and went to the Rio Hotel, which was nearby. I went to the Rio because the World Series of Poker was taking place there that year, and I wanted to watch people participate in it. I ended up spending a couple of hours at the Rio before realizing that I needed to head back to my hotel room to grab my phone charger, at which point I called my friend Cody, who I was staying with. When I called Cody, I told him that I'd be heading back to the hotel to grab my charger. Cody then said to me, "Sure, but just so you know, Leffen's playing Melee in our hotel room."
Now, this is kind of weird, knowing the fact that Leffen was in his hotel room playing video games. She's like, what the fuck is my enemy doing in my room with my friends?
That's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, surely they wouldn't have like shared the same room together. But like,
no, they weren't sharing the same room together. That's the thing.
But maybe Cody was the only one that brought.
No, he was
a GameCube.
Well, probably. I don't know.
When Cody said that to me, it was one of the weirdest things I'd ever heard. A lot of people vaguely knew that Leffen and I had beef, but people didn't know that this was the same person I had just tried to ban from the tournament we were at. Of all the people who could have ended up in my hotel room, the fact that it was Leffen wasn't a coincidence. He wanted to cause some sort of disturbance, and he...
When he sent out that when he sent out that email to try to get Leffen banned, and they said no, did he make it that public?
I don't know. I would assume probably some people knew, because what you have to know about Smash tourneys here is they're not like sanctioned by Nintendo. They're like local people doing like small time events. Some of them are obviously bigger than others. My guess is that fact probably circulated through individuals.
Oh, okay. Man, at some point he got to Leffen. Okay.
It's possible. It's very possible.
He succeeded.
We don't know, but
when I got back to the hotel, I didn't actually enter my room. Instead, I had Cody hand me my phone charger at the door. Leffen sat inside of my hotel room while all of this happened. These are logs showing that I discussed the situation with Cody last year. Later that weekend, something similar happened. I had spent a lot of EVO 2013 with my childhood friend J-Man, who was approaching retirement from Melee around that time. What I noticed is that during certain parts of the weekend, Leffen would make efforts to befriend J-Man, which led to lots of awkward moments where I didn't want to approach J-Man because he was with Leffen. This exact strategy was described by one of the Swedes who testified for Evidence.Zip, who stated that after he began avoiding Leffen, Leffen looked to finish him by taking his friends away from him, which caused issues in his social life. These types of interactions show the ridiculous lengths Leffen will go to torment people once they're on his hit list. As you can see, Leffen never actually expressed remorse for the actions that got him banned. In fact, he did the opposite. He made no efforts to change either, which should have been obvious based on the way he barked when he took games off of Armada at Beast 4 in 2014. The problem is that 8 years have passed since Evidence.Zip, and Leffen now has the entire Smash community in his back pocket. Someone with a Dark Triad mentality is able to severely disrupt society when given this much power, and Leffen has done exactly that. However, people haven't been viewing things from this angle, and so they never saw any of it. As I said earlier, Leffen would eventually transition into a full-fledged political con artist. The goal of his cons can be summed up in one phrase: socioeconomic resource transfer. Leffen is a Machiavellian who will do anything to get ahead socioeconomically, which means he'll go to unthinkable lengths to acquire fame and fortune. Between these two things, fame is Leffen's priority. He wants people to be controlled and underneath him so that he can continue to broaden his influence. I'll be showing you how Leffen has exploited the Smash community many times in order to achieve this. Another term you should be familiar with is socioeconomic resource drain. This term is appropriate because it describes the fact that Leffen often targets people such as myself who he views as political adversaries. Leffen's goal here is to drain his adversaries socioeconomically in order to further secure his position. This is a standard strategy for achieving totalitarianism.
My God, dude. I can't, man.
So, chat, for those that aren't watching, what he is trying to say is Leffen is trying to isolate hacks in order to gain power. And the way that he is doing that is by taking his friends and slowly inching into their lives and being their friends so that he is either forced to deal with Leffen or distance, which I can kind of, I guess, maybe see considering the fact that he was in a hotel room with his friends. Okay. Yeah. And now he is deciding to compare this to the Night of Long Knives, which, for those that don't know, and I am probably going to butcher my very short explanation of it, the Night of Long Knives is where Adolf Hitler basically took control over Germany by taking out his political rivals and the other individuals that held power over Germany at the time. So by basically like taking away their buddies and their friends. I don't really know. I don't know how that went down. I didn't really do a lot of research into Night of the Long Knives in school, but that is what he is trying. He's basically saying that Hitler came and took away Himmler's friends. Took away his friends and then killed him.
for a little bit there, I was like, wait a second, he might have a point here, because like playing inside of his room, inside of his hotel room, and being like friendly with his friends. Like if I hated somebody, I wouldn't want to be friends with the person that they're friends, because like in a way I'd be closer to the person I hate. I wouldn't do that, but then he compares it to this. he completely lost me. This is such an out there ridiculous comparison to make.
Yeah.
Like,
In Nazi Germany, for example, Hitler purged a large group within the Nazi Party in 1934. He viewed the people within this group as potential threats to his ascent, and so he needed them gone. Surely enough, this scheme was instrumental in Hitler's rise. Finally, social parasite is the term we'll use to describe someone who...
But so that also just makes me think that he thinks that by getting rid of hacks, Leffen is able to rise as the Hitler of the Smash community.
yeah, like does hacks think I don't know. I don't know if hacks had like that much power in the back of the day, but it's sounding like he thinks that he's like the top dog or something.
Well,
like,
he's
like
the
king.
most. He was the biggest creator of the scene, so kind of,
Oh, at the
sort of,
time?
maybe. I don't know if he was the biggest at the time, but like he's a big creator in the space, so like maybe, sort of, kind of. I have no idea.
Yeah, like
I have no fucking idea, man.
who resorts to either of these strategies. In Smash, or any community for that matter, it's an unspoken rule that your success shouldn't come at the expense of others. Social parasites like Leffen don't believe in this mentality, and so they'll gladly exploit their community and their fellow competitors in order to ascend. Unfortunately, this opens the door for all sorts of immoral ways of getting ahead that people wouldn't normally consider, which have largely contributed to where Leffen is today.
Now we're on to the next chapter.
Lovo.
We technically
Now
did
that the stage is set, I'm
jump
going to begin
the
listing
chapter.
manipulation tactics that Leffen uses on a regular basis. The first one is called the totalitarian tiptoe, or tiptoeing for short. Tiptoeing is used to get large groups of people to agree to terms that they would normally reject. This is the term that describes
Mango
Leffen's
was?
gradual
Okay.
encroachment of free speech that I talked about earlier.
Hmm.
As the Pat Miller quote explained, the best way to take control over a people and control them utterly is to take a little of their freedom at a time, to erode rights by 1,000 tiny and almost imperceptible
Didn't you say
reductions.
this before?
In this way, the people will not see those rights.
Huh?
Didn't you say this before? This quote?
Yes.
Huh.
He references
just
the
reading
same
it again.
quotes a couple of different times.
Freedoms being removed
Okay.
until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed. The idea here is that the best way to erode people's rights is to do it gradually so that nothing happens abruptly enough to raise eyebrows. Over time, this can cause people to fail to realize that they've
A
agreed
couple of different times.
freedoms being removed
Okay.
until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed. The idea here is that the best way to erode people's standard practice in the Smash community. We host tournaments for the good of the community, and so we don't overrun each other's tournaments. On January 2nd, my staff and I hosted
Oh, hold on. My stream is disconnecting. Fuck.
Oh.
Man, I might have to drop my KBPS. Hold on.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just for the rest of the night. Sorry, chat. We're going to have to drop it.
Wait, drop what?
My KBPS. Twitch died.
What's
Give
that?
it a moment. It's how many pixels you're sending out at a time, or packets of information,
Okay.
basically.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, chat. Just give it a moment. It should come back up on Twitch if it doesn't. All right, let's continue.
at Hax's nightclub. There were 567 entrants and the event was a huge success, but what a lot of people didn't understand is why Hax's nightclub never happened again after that date. The real reason is very complicated. On January 3rd, the day after I hosted Hax's nightclub, Leffen announced that he'd be starting up a weekly tournament series called Levo. To enter Levo, people would have to subscribe to Leffen on Twitch. Levo was going to happen every Saturday, which normally would have meant that it was overrunning Hax's nightclub. The catch, though, is that Levo was a European event, and so no one batted an eye. Not even my staff saw what Leffen had just done, but I knew precisely what this meant. Leffen was tiptoeing, and he would soon look to overrun Hax's nightclub entirely. If Leffen had announced the North American event on Saturdays, it would have raised too many eyebrows, so what he needed to do instead was take baby steps. Within a few weeks, he was inevitably going to expand Levo to North America.
So this doesn't really work. So let me tell it to you how I kind of understand it. People can correct me if I'm wrong. Hax started a Smash tourney that he did with some friends. A little bit later, Leffen decided to start his own tourney at a different time, basically, but it required a Twitch sub in order to get in. Hax decided to look at what Leffen did, and he got in his head that Leffen was trying to take over his event and was eventually going to encroach on the same time slot as him. And so he decided to basically not do another one before that actually happened.
Once I saw this, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I was going to trade my entire tournament series to mount my case against Leffen, and so I shut down Hax's nightclub. The interesting thing, though, is that nobody knew there wasn't going to be another event.
Yeah, so like he assumed that Leffen was going to do this,
So he
stopped doing it.
He just like took the most drastic measure. I forgot. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a phrase for that. Like just like taking the most drastic measure at like the first sign of danger or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
That's
Not
so
even my own
weird.
staff knew the truth. I'd begun to lie to everybody by telling them that the next
And
event
by the way, he lied to everybody that there was going to be another event. However, he had never at all planned to do another one.
would be on January 23rd. I even announced this in the Hax's Nightclub Discord server. The reason I announced January 23rd as the next date was because there were upcoming tournaments on the next 2 weekends, and so if I was actually going to host another event, then I would have had to schedule around them. But I was only looking for one thing here, and that was to make Leffen take the next step on January 23rd. I would then be able to show this to people later. The tournament that happened the week after my event was called Galint. I ran fake ads at Galint because I needed to be absolutely sure that Leffen would see them. The ads said that the next Hax's Nightclub would fall on January 23rd. Then, on January 14th, the inevitable happened when Leffen announced that the Levo he'd be hosting on January 23rd would have a North American bracket. Because of how inconspicuously Leffen slipped this in, no one even noticed that he had just overrun another tournament. January 23rd is also when Leffen would start calling it Saturday Night Levo, which is a direct shot at Hax's Nightclub.
So he claims that because both events use the word night in it, he's well, I'm going to infer, because he says it's a direct dig, because he calls his Hax's Nightclub, and then the other guy calls it Saturday Night Levo. So because both words of night in there, I'm assuming this guy thinks that I don't know.
Yeah, like what I'm thinking, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but like once again, like I'm noticing a pattern where like sometimes Hacks he starts to bring up like a pretty strange and possibly good point or something. Like it is strange that Leffen decided to like start his own tournament or something, but like on the other hand, Hungrybox, he has his own tournament too. So like I guess like having like tournaments based on like top players, that isn't too weird. But then the week after it's opened to North America, not just Europe. Yeah, that's kind of weird. But then he lost me again when he started nitty gritty, itty bitty picking the names. Like that's when he lost me. Like night, because it has night in it. Like if it sounded similar, yeah. Like, or what if he called it Leffen's Nightclub? Then yeah, sure. I think that would make the point stronger. But just it's late at night. Saturday night is a common term, is a common thing. So that's different. Like I don't know. It's just like he lost me there.
Yeah.
He lost me once he started making the nonsensical comparison.
Isn't it supposed to be a playoff of Saturday Night Live? I don't know. Probably. But like,
people know that. So
before I go any further, let me explain why this is so significant. Leffen wanted to overrun my tournament in order to weaken his longtime adversary. However, he knew that if his original announcement on January 3rd said that he'd be hosting a North American tournament on Saturdays, people would have brought up the fact that the East Coast had just gotten a major tournament series and that he was blatantly overrunning it. So instead, Leffen started by hosting an EU-only tournament. Then, 2 weeks later, he slipped in an announcement that he'd be adding a North American bracket. This allowed Leffen to overrun Hax's Nightclub without anyone noticing. The steps Leffen took reveal a high degree of Machiavellianism. Not only does this show that Leffen has the capacity to manipulate the community, but it also shows complete disregard for the community. Whereas Hax's Nightclub was a free event, Levo requires you to sub to Leffen on Twitch, which means Leffen was willing to take a free event away from the community. This also shows the capacity for resource transfer.
It's just like, bro, you you canceled it. You can't, like, unironically, it could be as easy as like Leffen didn't know that he would that like it, I have no idea, man, legitimately, like, but he canceled it.
Like he gave in too fast. Like if anything, that makes Leffen's tournament like more exclusive, less people, because you have to pay for it, unlike a free tournament, which is just fun. Anyone could join in. I don't think they're on the same playing field, even though they're both tournaments. The fact that one is the fact that one is paid means it's on a different playing field. So like, too drastic of a measure.
Pretty much.
And
Pretty
the
much.
fact that he advertised it too, like that really rubs me the wrong way. Just like he advertised it just to see what Leffen would do. Like,
resource drain, and socially parasitic behavior. Leffen's con may have been directed at me, but he was willing to exploit the community in order to execute it. One of the reasons I shut down Hax's nightclub completely was because I wanted to see how Leffen would lie to people afterward. This would end up happening a month later. On February 27th and 28th, there was going to be a major European event called The Upset. The Upset was being held by Poilon, a company that had recently gotten into Smash. The Upset singles bracket was going to take place on Sunday, February 28th, while Leffen would host Levo on Saturday the 27th. A few days before that weekend, Leffen's narcissism kicked into full gear. He started criticizing The Upset for starting its Sunday bracket at 11 a.m., as this would make it difficult for him to host Levo, then sleep, and enter The Upset the next day. He started to make lots of other criticisms as well. Things got to the point that The Upset's head TO had to step in and tell Leffen to stop shitting on his team's hard work, and that no one was forcing Leffen to enter The Upset. The TO also accused Leffen of overrunning his event, since it would have been common courtesy for Leffen to not host Levo at all that week so that the first day of The Upset could do better. Leffen then flat out lied to the TO's face by acting as though he cares about not conflicting with other events. We know that this is a lie because Leffen actually created Levo with the intention of overrunning Hax's nightclub. These types of cons can go a long way. Levo would go on to become the official qualifier for Summit's online events, whereas it's entirely possible that Hax's nightclub would receive this partnership if not for Levo overrunning
This is a lot, but this is a lot of him speculating that if he decided, by the way, speculating on something that he himself canceled, not anybody else, but he himself. But if he didn't cancel his event, maybe it would have, but he decided to cancel it because he got an itch up his butt about it.
Like I said, though, I was willing to trade my tournament series so that I could show you this. The moment I saw Leffen's announcement on January 3rd, I knew that I had the opportunity to catch him in a string of lies.
All right, now we're on to the next chapter. How to destroy the box, which is his tool.
The crazy part is that in January, Leffen launched not one, but 2 political cons at me. While all of this was going on, there was another con aimed at the box, which is the ergonomic controller that I sell. The con began on January 5th when Leffen tweeted that he'd be live streaming a review of a box he just got in the mail. This was yet another tiptoe. Just like when Leffen tiptoed by announcing Levo, he was now tiptoeing once again. To show you how obvious it is that this was a tiptoe, consider this Instagram post that Leffen made in 2017 in which he claimed he'd be showcasing notched GameCube controllers. Leffen then posted his so-called notch showcase to YouTube and started to say things like these within the first few minutes.
Right, so first off, one common thing that people say is like, oh, you know, the fact that the box or the hitbox controller, the digital input, gives you perfect wave dashes isn't a big deal. You can just notch your controller to get perfect wave dashes. This, even with notches, this literally never happens. Truck Jitsu said, this isn't a good reason. You can just make the box, you can just modify the box so it's less than perfect. No, you can't. It's not really that they're objectively better. It's that it's 100% consistent. It's perfect. It's far more important to be 100% consistent than 100% perfect in Melee. And that's the inherent problem with having digital input. You play outside of the rules.
Leffen's notch showcase wasn't even about notches. It was a video intended to convince you that the box needed to be banned. The only reason Leffen used a different title was to trick people into watching the video. This is why when you see Leffen claiming that he'll be reviewing the box 4 years later, he's obviously being deceptive here as well.
They both are kind of fingerprint magnets, but I think the box is worse. For the hand position for this one, I actually feel like these buttons are like too high up, but I have never seen this many cuts on anything ever. It has 1 billion small cuts.
Within the first few minutes of Leffen's review, it becomes pretty obvious that he's tricked people into watching a stream of him ripping into the box the entire time. I don't actually care about the comments you heard him making just now, but the comments that came afterward are the ones that would end up causing huge problems.
For me, I might actually swap so that this button is Z, so I can grab like this, and so that I can L cancel with R. Because I think L canceling with R is better than with light. A lot of people will not agree with me, but I am very sure about it.
Leffen had begun to spout factually and...
So...
Wait. He's just saying button preferences, but...
yes, it is a button preference, yes.
And he's saying it's a bad thing?
Hax is saying it's a bad thing, that he is talking about button preferences, yes. Here, let's continue.
Correct information about L canceling in Melee. He was then using that information to tell people that the box is designed incorrectly and that 2 of its button locations should be swapped.
What? No.
To show you what I mean, here's a diagram of the box's button layout.
He's asking for options, but Hax is saying there's no need for options. which I disagree. I feel like if you want to make a controller that people can use, you should allow people to have whatever options you want, just in case they decide to be crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And like most people use WASD, but if you decide that SZXC is better, then you could do that. You could change that. But yeah, like, so I do agree that like this thing should be customizable because of like the buttons themselves don't have any letters on them. Like the fact that the buttons don't have letters means that I feel like you should be able to like change them as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's just his preference. That's just like that's what his muscle memory is telling him.
Yeah.
And Hack saying that it's like Hack saying that he like Leffen is trying to be defamatory here. That's so weird.
No, yeah, I agree. It's just like, what the fuck? You're going way too out, way too out there.
The 8 buttons being highlighted in blue are called home row buttons because they're the ones that you rest your fingers on. As you can see, the Z button is on the home row. This is a crucial design decision that Leffen was contesting by telling people that Z should be swapped with R. The reason you heard him give for this is that digital L cancels, which are performed with L or R, are allegedly better than analog L cancels, which are performed by lightly pressing L or R or pressing Z. Therefore, there should be a digital L cancel button on the home row, according to Leffen. As the person who spent 4 years designing this controller, I'm going to explain in detail why Leffen's button layout should never be used. The first thing to know is that Leffen is incorrect in telling you that digital L cancels are better than analog L cancels. It's actually
Now, I'm going to let you know right now, he is going to spend about 30 minutes talking about this. Do you want to sit through that?
I don't think there's any point to. Like, based on, like, do you know anything else that, like, maybe he's going to talk about, like, I just think the next 30 minutes is going to be Hack saying, "Oh, Leffen's wrong," and just get into the tech of the game. Is that it?
It's basically him going to be saying why the controller is set up the way it is and why you shouldn't be allowed to change it. Kirsch uses QWES. What the fuck? She uses a what?
Wait, QWES.
It's okay. It's okay. She's a woman.
Okay, fair enough. Like when I try to like move my middle finger from Y to S, it feels so uncomfortable. It's so weird. Well, like all power to her, but of course, but still, I can never do that.
Yeah.
But of course, options are always good, especially with a freaking controller that has no. Well, I already said this, like no letters, so it looks like you could customize it, but I guess like because of Hack saying that this is objectively the right way to put it. That doesn't say right with me because every single person is different. Every single person has their own preferences.
Mm-hmm.
This is his perfect setup, but somebody else could be different.
Pretty much.
Oh.
So we're going to skip about 30 minutes chat. I am correct. I was correct in what I said that it is about 30 minutes of it. So we're skipping about 30 minutes in and we'll continue here.
The fact that ergonomic controllers were even necessary. The lengths he was going to destroy me were unbelievable. Eventually, I couldn't take any more of Leffen's abuse. At Smash and Splash 3, I saw him lose to Zane, which was a major upset at the time. This led to me taking a shot at Leffen on Twitter. I called him out for losing despite the fact that he had notches, which he had constantly been misrepresenting in order to get the box banned. At first, Leffen didn't respond to my tweet for a while, but later that night, he blew things insanely out of proportion. Leffen posted logs of a private conversation I
You started it. Yeah, what's up?
Well, he's just like, I had complex PTSD from extended periods of stalking I was subject to as a teenager. I confessed this to Leffen in February. He later leaked this information as blackmail to me during the box's legality process. Okay, yeah, so number one, don't tell the internet personal private details that you aren't like interested of getting out to the public. Like, I know I definitely have done that just a little bit and I kind of regret some of the stuff I let out there. However, like legitimately, don't tell your blood enemy that you had PTSD. Are you guys going to watch Technical's vid on Leffen? Not tonight because I have work tomorrow. We're going to be watching this tonight, then I'm going to watch Technical's maybe on Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, we're watching this as a pre-ramble because like we think that like Technical's video, I've heard like it talks about points in this video. So we want to like watch this first to make sure we get all the context we need before we start watching it.
Technicals talks about like what happened to Hacks and what led to him passing away basically.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
I had with him in 2016, in which I came to him with a confession. I'd been suffering from PTSD for 3 years at the time, and I needed help. This PTSD resulted from the chronic harassment and stalking I'd been subject to in 2011 and 2012, and it had been causing me severe insomnia. The reason I used to have PTSD is because I didn't understand psychopathy back when I was a teenager, and so I didn't understand why someone was stalking me so obsessively. Apparently, when I gave Leffen this information, he viewed it as a way to stalk me again in the future while blackmailing me. It's still probably the most evil thing I've ever witnessed.
That's why you don't tell it to people.
Logs, he
That was
tweeted
his
that he
most
had
evil
tried
thing?
to be nice to me
Okay.
despite how terrible I'd been to him. I know it's hard to believe, but Leffen really did tweet that. Tons of people then told Leffen to take the logs down, so he did. However, when someone told Leffen that he shouldn't have posted the logs under any circumstance, Leffen claimed victim status and told him that he couldn't take my harassment anymore. To be clear, I never harassed Leffen during this entire time period. I only ever confronted him because he was trying to end my career. The same person then pressed Leffen about the fact that it still wasn't okay. This was when Leffen referred to me as his stalker. It's very important to realize that this was a projection, and that Leffen was openly confessing to the fact that he stalks me.
Like, no, you are my stalker. You are a stalker.
Yeah, that's.
I think it is you, motherfucker, not me.
I feel like Hacks is just like obsessing over every single tiny little thing Leffen does.
It's,
Like-
again, to be fair, I feel like Leffen is definitely a horrible individual to have.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because he kind of mentions it here that Leffen tried to get his box like not able to be used. Because like once you create a box like that to be used in tournaments, it has to get approved. And Hacks had tried to get that to happen, and Leffen basically tried to keep that from going through. So.
Yeah, like I'm getting the vibe that like Leffen is fighting
Just as
is like is being an asshole back to Hacks. It's not like he's like he's an asshole by default, but like Hacks is just enabling him, and he wants to like escalate things because Hacks is, you know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely it's complicated for sure.
Excuse me.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
That was a sneeze. Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
Anyway, let's continue.
He was confessing to several of his other flaws back when I showed you some of his other insults. After Leffen projected, he told the person that he was done speaking with them since they insisted on victim blaming. This interaction shows exactly why Evidence.Zip urged the reader to understand that Leffen will always claim victim status, and that they need to be able to see through it. Less than a week after this,
I do think that Leffen is kind of like a bitch-made pussy that tries to victim blame, or not victim blame,
Yeah.
be the victim so that people can't criticize him.
Yeah,
all
I'm thinking
happened, I
that too.
released my Arduino project to the general public. Leffen tweeted within a few hours to encourage people not to trust me, and to view my work as if it was research funded by a cigarette company. When I released lengthy box documentation a year later, Leffen made the exact same tweet. Ironically, my box documentation contained nothing but factual information. There was even a long chapter on 1.0 Cardinal, the mechanic that Leffen had spread propaganda about in order to get the box banned. If not for Leffen, I never would have had to write this chapter, but I needed to debunk all the lies he'd been spreading. Leffen ultimately failed to ban the box, but his intentions were clear the whole way through. He wanted to remove me from the community at any cost, even if it meant banning a controller that thousands of people would end up needing. Looking back at it, Leffen's success would have been catastrophic. It would have cost so many players their careers. Between all the cons Leffen's launched at me, there's been a common denominator. He doesn't give a shit about this community. When Leffen wants to defraud someone, he will do it no matter how much collateral damage it causes. So far, you've seen him overrun a free tournament series, teach people to L-cancel the wrong way, and convince people to desecrate their ergonomic controllers. 4 years prior to that, he tried to deny...
Again, L-canceling the quote-unquote wrong way, it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry.
Also,
what's
this...
that?
Yes, that is a thumbnail that Leffen did when he was doing a review of the box.
That's crazy.
And he took this seriously.
people the
He
right to even use an
did.
ergonomic controller in the first place
Oh,
through
no.
blackmail and propaganda. Leffen was the only beneficiary in all of these situations. At this point, one of the biggest mysteries is surely how Leffen ever managed to attain hero status within the Smash community. He's done absolutely nothing heroic this far in the video, yet he somehow made people think this to be true of him. The way Leffen achieved hero status was through a series of political cons that would take place over the course of the next 3 years. This is because narcissists will strategically claim victim status and hero status in order to get ahead. Victim status, which you've already seen Leffen claim, allows the narcissist to evade accountability, while hero status allows the narcissist to mobilize people underneath them. But to obtain hero status, the narcissist must create a common enemy, which often comes at the expense of innocent people.
Oh, is he bringing Hungrybox into this? Oh no.
Leffen's usage of the common enemy strategy began in 2017 when he realized how good of a target Hungrybox was. HBox's popularity had started to dip after the Big House 7 because of how much he'd been winning at the time, which made him vulnerable. Leffen had been knocked out of this tournament by HBox, but you could tell from his post-game interview that he had nothing but good things to say about him.
Lacked focus, and in those moments, it just died every time, especially against Hungrybox. I played well overall, but then during edge cards and like when he just approached me with Pound, I would just like let up for a second, and then he destroys you. He's really amazing at like noticing your weak points and just instantly killing you for it.
Yeah, he's like real. Dude's reactions are crazy. It's like there was one moment you just like did like a spot dodge.
People still seem to think that the Leffen HBox beef was just some run-of-the-mill beef, but there was so much more to it than that. The Leffen HBox beef was a calculated attempt to end HBox's career that took place right in front of everybody's eyes. It would also cause extreme damage to the community, as Leffen's cons usually do. I was able to recognize that all of this would happen from the start, having been on Leffen's hit list for years. The problem was that nobody else did. What you need to know is that high mocks like Leffen are opportunists who recognize that the right circumstances need to be there before they can pounce on someone. You saw this earlier when Leffen pounced on the box's legality after years of lying in wait. As for the Leffen HBox beef, what happened here was Leffen decided that if he couldn't beat HBox, then a viable way to dispose of him was to destroy his reputation and push him out of the community. Most people would never consider such an immoral strategy, but the Machiavellian viewpoint is different. HBox's dip in popularity would allow Leffen to inflict serious mental damage by convincing people that he was the enemy. This would also heroize Leffen in addition to increasing his market share. From Leffen's perspective, it was arguably better than doing things the normal way. Because I'd just had my controller's legality conned by Leffen for an entire year, I knew exactly why HBox was being targeted at this juncture. Like I said, the first reason was his dip in popularity. Leffen is an opportunist who knows that the right circumstances need to be there, which they were. The second reason was envy. Just as Leffen never liked me because of the fact that I'd respected melee opinions, he couldn't stand the fact that HBox was in his way. And lastly, the third reason was blackmail. Leffen had been blackmailing people ever since the days of Evidence.Zip, and we all saw how he blackmailed me during the box legality process. In this case, Leffen's blackmail was the little-known fact that HBox had cheated on his girlfriend. Everyone would find out about this a few years later, but at the time, not too many people knew about it, and we can assume HBox would have preferred to keep things that way. A few weeks after the big...
Again, this is just not something that you tell the internet, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Although... Sorry, I'm rubbing my eyes because I'm tired. I don't know if, like, HBox and Leffen were good friends or not, but, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say that, like, if they were friends that... Oh, fuck. Sorry, something's in my eye now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know either.
Like, I'm not going to say that, like, they were friends or they weren't friends. Here's what I will say. I can't really judge the guy for associating with this man and then for telling him a lot of details, because maybe he thought that Leffen was, like, friendly or a cool person, and he just didn't realize that Leffen would probably sell him down the river. I think some people don't recognize that sometimes, for sure. But it's like, this is one of those situations where you look at the situation and you're like, okay, excuse me, you need to understand and realize that there's some people that are going to use your kindness against you, and so you should not, like, allow them to do that. They were neutral, okay. Well, okay, they were neutral in, they were neutral in the sense that when we saw them in the public, they looked neutral. There is a chance that, like, they probably were or were not. We don't really know. We only know what was inferred based off of what we saw in public. So I don't know, in my personal opinion. But what I will say is, just as a general rule, chat, you do not tell individuals on the internet that you cheated on your girlfriend, because people are going to use that kind of shit against you. Just saying.
Yeah. Like, yeah, don't. I don't know what to say. It's just pretty silly move on HBox to say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
House 7, Leffen's con began when he abruptly decided that HBox was killing Melee. The same person who called Leffen out just a few months earlier for blackmailing me pointed out how much of a U-turn this was from everything Leffen had said about HBox in the past, including during Leffen's Big House 7 interview. I quickly saw how personal things were getting when Leffen tweeted that HBox is a miserable person, and that everyone has a story of HBox being shitty toward them just a few days later. Leffen obviously had no business saying these things given how he's treated people, but by now you should know that there's no consistency among the things that Leffen says. Furthermore, neither of Leffen's statements about HBox were true. Having been a part of Evidence.Zip, I started to become very worried about where this was headed. A few days after Leffen's tweets, the tournament Summit 5 was held in California. Leffen, HBox, and I were all in attendance at this tournament. HBox has been a close friend of mine for many years, so I confronted Leffen on the very first day of Summit 5 to try to defuse their beef, but it was no use.
Bad
I knew
idea.
that HBox was being blackmailed, so I repeatedly told Leffen that HBox's sex life wasn't his business. I also made it clear to Leffen that HBox wasn't the only person guilty of cheating, and that Leffen would be a hypocrite if he continued to go after HBox specifically. Leffen blatantly didn't care about any of this. He spoke to me in a deadpan expression the entire time, and gave me responses that kept the conversation going in circles. I left Summit 5 knowing that Leffen was dead set on ruining HBox.
Okay, here's what I'll say. Hack says his sex life isn't your business. I agree, which is why he should not have told Leffen about that in the first place. So it's just like, I can agree that it's like bad for Leffen to hold that over somebody's head, but I also think the guy was a fucking idiot for deciding to tell Leffen this in the first place. Because unless you're like super duper friends with people, that ain't shit that you're supposed to share with people. All right, that ain't shit that you're just supposed to share. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as we all got home from Summit 5, Leffen continued to spread rumors about HBox and misrepresent the way other pro players viewed him. When HBox got fed up and defended himself, Leffen immediately signaled to him that he was being blackmailed. This blackmail would keep HBox silent for the remainder of the feud. In December 2017, Leffen posted a video of himself stabbing a pancake that had a green Jigglypuff drawn on it. This video tells you that Leffen desperately wanted to get rid of HBox. It's identical to when he bought a red Adidas shirt shortly after losing to me at Genesis. Stalking and smear campaigning represents the...
Now the Jigglypuff is kind of like, I think somebody mentioned that was a reference to the fact that HBox plays Jigglypuff. I think.
Yeah, like HBox is the Jigglypuff, especially with the green bandana.
Yeah.
But like, actually, can you go back to Gauntlet real quick? I want to see if
the highest level of desperation.
If Leffen put like parsley on as the look at that. He put parsley or whatever that is as the green bandana because like that's HBox's skin. Like nobody else uses green bandana because that's him. But this is too goofy to say that like this is serious.
I agree.
A little thing.
I agree.
Just a joke.
He's the puff
Maybe
main.
not a good one based on what was happening at the time, but it's still a joke. Still goofy.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I feel like him doing this isn't like supposed to be taken as seriously. Me personally, I just don't take it very seriously. Personally.
Yeah, me neither.
Had a green Jigglypuff drawn on it. This video tells you that Leffen desperately wanted to get rid of HBox. It's identical to when he bought a red Adidas shirt shortly after losing to me at Genesis. Stalking and smear campaigning represents the highest level of desperation on the psychopath's end, and it's exactly what Leffen did in both of these situations. A month later, Leffen released propaganda in the form of a video called One of the Many Reasons to Dislike HBox. The video depicted HBox as the devil and received about 400,000 views. Unfortunately, not nearly enough people realized how malicious this video was. Within the video, an up-and-coming player named Snowy tells a story about how HBox had been rude to him when they met. Leffen sits next to Snowy and encourages him to keep going as he tells his story.
Yeah, that's like such an asshole thing to do, in my personal opinion.
Asked him for a best of $5, Puff did it, and when he found out that I was a Puff, he went his secondaries, he took 2 games, and then...
The fact that he keeps saying he's blackmailing is annoying. Leffen going public with private info is scummy behavior, but it's not blackmail. It depends on what he's planning on doing. If Leffen is using that information to try and get somebody to do something specific, I can kind of see that as an idea. However, it really depends. Like, it legitimately really depends, like, what the context is. If Leffen just decides to be an asshole and throw it out in the public, it's not really blackmail. That's just him deciding to be an asshole and leak shit to the public that isn't really his to leak. But if he is saying, if you don't do this, I will do this, it is blackmail, basically. I think. That might that might be extortion, actually. I just don't think what is being mentioned here is blackmail. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, like, I think that it's just like he's not trying to like from what I've seen, he's not trying to force HBox into do anything. He just decided to leak it and make it public.
Yeah,
which is a really asshole thing to do, but isn't exactly blackmail, right?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know either.
And he takes my money, he walks away, and I was wearing the HBox shirt that he made, like the one with the cube.
No!
Yeah, and he says to me, "Nice shirt," and he leaves. It was.
Are you? No, there's no way.
Yeah, no. I had my friend there. My friend will be here tomorrow. You'll know. Like it was
Dude, this is like a villain story.
No.
Guys, join the resistance.
Not only is the thought of Leffen accusing anyone of being mean toward new players comical, but if you actually look into how Leffen treated Snowy behind the scenes, it becomes clear that Snowy was used. On July 19, 2018, Leffen referred to Snowy as his slave, and on February 7, 2019, Leffen looked to silence Snowy for speaking positively about Jigglypuff. When Snowy tried to defend himself, Leffen accused Snowy of lying. Snowy could also be seen begging Leffen to not influence the community to ban his character. I would end up meeting Snowy at a tournament called Don't Park on the Grass that took place at the end of 2018. I talked to Snowy about the video he starred in, and he told me that he never really meant what he said about HBox. Snowy was mostly starstruck by the chance to hang out with Leffen, and wanted to impress him. Snowy also told me that Leffen was highly abusive toward him, and would repeatedly call him retarded off camera. When I asked Snowy why he would take Leffen's abuse, he told me that being friends with Leffen gave him opportunities, and that it let him talk to other top players in the scene. There's a term called flying monkeys, also known as abuse.
Just real quick. Was this back in the day when the word, like, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say retarded, right?
Yeah, say it. That's fine.
Okay, like, I'm pretty sure, like, back in the day that it wasn't as big of a deal to say to call somebody that as it is now, right? I could be wrong, but
Is anybody getting weird audio cuts? Refresh the stream if you're having that. Don't know why that would be happening. I did know the stream cut for a minute. It doesn't appear to be cut right now, so hopefully that is the case. But we only got like about another 50 minutes left, although I'm not quite sure if we're going to be able to get through it because I'm going to want to be done here in about an hour. We'll see.
Okay, I got you.
We'll see.
Abuse by proxy that describes everything you just witnessed. Abuse by proxy is when a narcissistic abuser exploits another person to carry out their agenda, such as launching a smear campaign. Snowy was valuable for Leffen in this case because he gave credibility to Leffen's smear campaign, but after that, he wasn't needed. The reality is that narcissists don't value their proxies as human beings whatsoever, and will typically dump them after there's no longer a good reason to maintain the relationship. As you can tell by now, the Leffen HBox situation never made any sense. It was pot calling the kettle black. The most malicious person in the entire community had made up a narrative that someone else was an abuser, and people believed it. As 2018 went on, Leffen continued to do things like censor HBox's name in his Twitch chat and misrepresent their in-person interactions. When Leffen claimed that HBox
yeah, that's pretty scummy and shitty, in my personal opinion.
HBox politely asked Leffen to settle their beef. Leffen then went and rephrased this in the most vindictive way possible.
And tell me about the set history between these two, Scar.
So Leffen versus HBox has actually been, they have had a long rivalry, and it's gotten a bit personal at times. These guys do not like each other. They don't kind of oil and water a little bit.
Leffen frequently tweets about, you know, such and such, like, I can't believe this terrible human being. He doesn't say terrible, you know, player. He says terrible human being.
Yeah, it's gotten to that level.
It's gotten to that level. Is killing the game that I love, you know, Leffen's maybe a little bit melodramatic about it, but
maybe a little, but that's what we like about him.
The false narrative that HBox's deplorable person eventually made its way to commentary slots and news outlets such as ESPN. You can tell from the way Scar and Toph spoke about Leffen that inciting mass hatred was a part of his brand at this point, and that the community would condone it too. Unfortunately, the average viewer wouldn't have seen things this way. These broadcasts alone probably brainwashed thousands of people into believing that Leffen was the hero. A week later at Super Smash Con, the social isolation that was destined to come for HBox had finally begun to manifest. The rank 1 player in the world was rapidly losing his support network, and he was starting to crack. There to capitalize on the situation was none other than Leffen, who subtly encouraged people to deal the finishing blow. Like I said earlier, this was all a calculated attempt to end HBox's career, and it damn near succeeded. To show you how stealthy the manipulation that took place right in front of you was, let's juxtapose Genesis 5 and Genesis 6. At Genesis 5, which took place in 2018, Leffen gaslit HBox by refusing to give him a handshake after both of their sets. This was intended to push the narrative that HBox is deplorable. HBox can't be blamed at all for his reaction to it happening the first time, as he didn't deserve any of this. However, evoking that type of a reaction was all part of Leffen's plan.
Not doing the fist bump, not doing the handshake, that's so bad. That's so disrespectful.
It is.
Yeah, like in Smash especially, from what I've seen, if you don't, that's a really bad look.
Yeah.
A year later at Genesis 6, and the aftermath of Leffen's behavior was clear as day. Several competitors tweeted in good faith to let the community know that this type of hatred was unacceptable. However, there was a snake in the grass among them. After an entire year of spearheading the movement against HBox, Leffen trapdoored his way out of the chaos he created in order to boost his reputation. Hardly anyone called fraud on Leffen's tweet either, but HBox's mother sure did. And the fact that she of all people called fraud tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, so apparently, like, Leffen was like, hey guys, cool it on the harassment. And then Hungrybox's mom is like, you've been partially the creator of this hatred against my son. Shame on you. And it's just like,
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I guess his mom basically was like, fuck you. And it's only slightly funny, Chad, just slightly, but it is like the fact that his mom got involved is kind of real. Don't let your parents on social media though.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, it's cute that she's trying to defend her son, but yeah, no parents on social media.
Yeah,
I agree.
People don't realize this, but Leffen is the real reason HBox had a crab thrown at him at Pound 2019. Leffen incited violence without ever directly inciting violence. He puppeteered the HBox con from start to finish, and not enough people connected the dots. When Leffen told the crowd to roar, they roared, and when Leffen told the crowd to sit, they sat. The most incredible part is that Leffen ended up leveraging all of this into a hero narrative. The community either never realized how Leffen had mobilized them, or never had the courage to speak up against it, and so they accepted his hatred as the new normal.
At least they did a handshake there.
Yeah. All right, we're on chapter 9.
Years of research is probably the con I'll catch the most flack for defending, but there's so much worth talking about here in terms of political angles that were never considered. When people look back at years of research, they don't seem to remember it correctly, so I want to share a different perspective. On December 7, 2018, a new Smash title would come out, which presented Leffen with yet another huge opportunity. Realizing how easy it had been to craft a hero narrative within the Melee community, Leffen would now repeat the process within the Ultimate community. Any other content creator would have simply created content to profit off the release of a new Smash title, but Leffen is always willing to take things a step further, and so what he needed was a new hero narrative. Because hero narratives always come at someone else's downfall, Leffen needed to pick a target. You're absolutely not supposed to say what I'm about to tell you, but Salem was conned by Leffen. I discussed this with Mewtwo last year, and he agreed. The problem was that Salem went on to say things about the Melee community that couldn't be defended, as M2K put it. M2K and I agreed that Salem was just a nerd who'd been bullied, and said things they probably didn't mean. They became part of Leffen's political agenda when Leffen started harassing them about their opinions on Ultimate with the intention of vilifying someone. None of the arguments Leffen made about Snake being a bad character would end up being correct, but that wasn't...
Who's my Smash main? That's a hard one. I haven't played Smash in ages, chat.
When I played Corrin and DDD. And I played some Min, but we don't talk about that. But yeah, those are my 2 or 3 go-tos.
I could piss off everybody and just say Steve.
Yeah, that actually would piss everybody off. I thought I was bad when I was saying Min, but yeah, that's way worse. That's way worse.
Yeah. Oh, my seat is there. It goes.
The point. Leffen needed to trigger someone quickly, and he would end up doing just that. After Salem posted years of research, they ended up losing their entire reputation over the course of 2 days. Normally, I wouldn't have listed Leffen's beef with Salem as a charge against Leffen, but you have to realize that we're now going on the 7th person whose career Leffen has looked to ruin. This is factoring in Chillin, who I put in the same category as Salem. Chillin and Salem weren't necessarily Leffen's political adversaries, but they were still instrumental in Leffen's ascension. Leffen's beef with Chillin was to instill fear and get sponsored more quickly, while his beef with Salem was to milk the Ultimate community of its resources. Salem actually referenced this in years of research when they said that there were people who were only interested in profiting off of Ultimate. Salem also pointed out that Leffen's fan base grows alongside his malicious intent, which is completely accurate. Years of research had all sorts of other problems, though, so these things got overlooked. A few months later, Salem lost their sponsor, and Leffen was there to celebrate. By that point, everyone had forgotten that Leffen instigated this beef in the first place, which just goes to show how effective it is to unite people against a common enemy. When Leffen beat Salem half a year later at Super Smash Con, a sea of onlookers watched in awe as the supervillain of Ultimate was defeated. But what they didn't realize was that the real villain had just won. Watching this clip of the crowd is terrifying once you realize that Leffen was the mastermind here, and that Salem was nothing more than a scapegoat so that Leffen could mobilize these people. The situation was so one-sided that even HBox had no choice but to participate in it, despite being vilified by Leffen the year before. Leffen could have picked anyone as his target in this situation, but I'm almost positive...
Huh?
Did Leffen lose there?
I don't know. Excuse me. Aquatism gravitates towards Blockman. No, that was a joke, chat. I don't really have a main because I haven't played in forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if they're cheering on because Leffen lost, I mean, isn't he the villain? Or like, don't people see him as the villain?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe they were just happy because new Smash game, and they were excited because like it was a hype set.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching those old sets like way before DLC Pack 2, way before the Blockman, and all the dumb characters came into the game. That was a good time. Like watching those sets were a very good time. So I could imagine these guys were just hyped because fun game to watch. And he's just looking into like the nitty gritty stuff, like trying to make these crazy inferences.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I believe Leffen won that match. Okay.
I know why he picked Salem. If you look at who won EVO titles for Smash in the Mandalay Bay, the most recent winner at the time was Leffen. Before that, you had HBox, who Leffen had already gone after, and then you had Salem. When you consider the fact that Leffen has a god complex and will target people for trivial reasons like these, it makes perfect sense. Leffen may very well have taken offense to the fact that Salem once stepped foot on the same stage as him, and so he wanted to make it clear that only he was worthy of that stage. This is obviously nothing more than a theory, but it's something to keep in mind. The main reason I bring up the Salem feud is because it shows that certain patterns are being repeated, and those patterns are less innocent than people think. Within less than a year, Leffen vilified 2 different people in order to attain hero status and climb the social ladder. HBox was a political adversary who Leffen weakened, while Salem was a scapegoat for Leffen to mobilize people underneath him. Regardless of where you stand on these feuds, there's no denying that each of them served a purpose. Both times, Leffen was able to control crowds and walk away as the beneficiary.
I think it's funny that we're not laughing at that picture anymore. He's used it so many times that the joke is.
I'm gonna be honest.
Is dry now.
I'm kind of tired, so I don't care. But it's just I look at it as like I don't care.
Okay.
Without anybody realizing it. The point is that there is a political agenda, and soon you'll know why that agenda will spell the end of this community.
And now we're on chapter 10.
Up until now, I've shown you that Leffen will approach every situation with the most profitable political angle he can come up with. He undeniably has a dark triad mentality that believes in exploiting others in order to ascend. But sometimes, exploiting others doesn't mean feuding with people. Depending on the situation, it may be appropriate to become a social justice activist overnight. Following the HBox and Salem feuds, Leffen had begun to transition from a villain to an anti-hero in the eyes of the community. The days of Evidence.Zip were over, not that anyone knew what Evidence.Zip was to begin with. After
Nobody
saving Smash from two
cared, in
separate
my
problems
personal
that he
opinion.
created, Leffen was starting to be perceived as a role model,
Whole
and it
drama,
couldn't have come
that's
at a
all.
better time. Last summer, the Smash community witnessed its darkest point when it found out that many of its own were sexual predators. People didn't know what to believe when the victims first started coming out, but before you knew it, the whole world was watching. Unfortunately, if there's anything last summer proved, it's that the Smash community is twice as naive as it thought
Oh my
it was.
gosh,
This
it's
is because
sus
just as sexual
image.
predators can live among us, the Dark
Freaking
Triad can
Among
live
Us,
among us
come on,
too.
man.
People fail to realize how profitable a Me Too movement is from a business perspective. Most of us would never imagine that someone could be cold enough to view things this way, and that's sadly what allows the Dark Triad.
Yes, people can view it exactly the way that I know Leffen is going to view it, or the way that he thinks Leffen is going to view it.
To gain the upper hand. The truth is, you should always be skeptical about the people who rush to the podium in these types of situations, especially when you consider how well suited the Dark Triad traits are for it. By taking the helm of a Me Too movement, narcissism is rewarded in the form of worldwide acclaim, psychopathy allows one to remain unemotional throughout the whole process, and Machiavellianism allows one to take advantage of the scattered masses who need a leader. It's the perfect opportunity, but most people would never see it that way. So far, I've explained how Dark Triads strategically claim victim status and hero status in order to manipulate people. There's only one better status to claim than either of these, and it's called virtuous victimhood. This refers to when victim status and hero status are combined. Virtuous victimhood is the strongest signal one can emit because it combines the sympathy of victim status with the admiration of hero status, making it ideal for leeching resources. Virtuous victimhood can't be signaled in every situation, but it can certainly be signaled during a Me Too movement. A Dark Triad is able to emerge as someone who can resonate with victims while also coming across as a leader who victims should stand behind. This is why it was never a matter of if Leffen would show up, but rather a matter of when. Surely enough, Leffen would begin tweeting frequently on June 28th. The tweets he made over the course of the next few weeks gave victims hope and empowerment, and caused him to become the community's beacon. Leffen's actions were showered with praise by community leaders, and not a soul stopped to question his intentions. His ability to take the helm of Me Too so easily despite his dark past made me realize how wide the gap between perception.
Yeah, so chat, he like social justice warriored over the Me Too movement. Big fucking deal. Yeah, he's an asshole for doing that. Woo.
And reality is within this community, and that the situation was worse than I thought. If you listen closely to what Leffen says in this clip that Rishi tweeted, you'll start to realize that something went wrong here.
Yeah, I also agree that saying you stan, while I appreciate it, if it's about me, I still think it's bad. You should hold me accountable. If I'm not entertaining, if I'm not doing shit like that, then don't fucking follow me. Don't watch me. I'm not your friend. I'm an entertainer. I'm a pro player. You shouldn't assume that I am a top. Just because I'm a top player, that I'm a top person, that I'm a great person, because you don't know me. It is very easy as a streamer to do your bad shit during the hours you don't stream.
I'm going to be honest with you. I 100% agree with what Leffen just said. Yeah, you should not assume that the individual that you see on camera is the same off camera. I actually really enjoy that some people... sorry, my brain is like slowly dying right now. You should be agreeable and understanding to the fact that, yeah, some people are going to be different offline than they are online. So, you know, yeah,
Yeah,
like what Leffen said is accurate.
I agree too.
So,
And like he says in his bio, he's pretty blunt, pretty honest, and yeah, I agree. I've heard some other streamers say that too. But like, they're a performer. They're performing. You know, like of course, it's not like their personalities are fake, probably, but it's a different face on the camera than what it is in real life.
it's a bit bigger than it seems when you consider the Jisoo situation. Oh yeah.
By July 2nd, the number of allegations had begun to ramp up, and so Leffen made a YouTube video in which he discussed the situation. He also made a second video on July 15th. These videos received over 1 million hits combined. I'll play a couple of quotes from them that I've selected.
The people these people hurt don't deserve to just be a summary and just to be like, these people overall have been abused, right? So I'm not going to try to do that here. People know about the Evidence.Zip, and although I do not think that that was deserved, you know, like being banned for it, I do definitely agree that I acted like a fucking jerk and that I need to do much, like I need to be much better going forward is what I realized. Some people in this community, whether you like it or not, have some kind of power, whether it's being a top player, a TO, a just community figure, whatever it is. Heck, man, all it seems to take now is that, you know, like, it really does seem like people just take whatever they can and just use it to either abuse, blackmail, or try to hide what they have done. I have no doubt that we will be seeing more stories come out, and I am incredibly proud of everyone speaking out. I'm not sure.
Again, I think that is just him trying to say something, in my personal opinion.
Yeah,
I think it's good that it's nice to hear him say, I take responsibility for this, even though it sucks. I take responsibility for this, but I just think that this is kind of an act.
Yeah, he might ramble a little bit. Then, like, maybe I'm getting pretty tired too. But like, what is Hax trying to prove here? Like, is he trying? Like what bad is he trying to paint Lefty with this?
Well, since we if you'd like, we can end a little bit early tonight, but I can kind of like explain what his overall goal is here. His overall goal is to explain why Leffen is a horrible individual who has done horrible things in his eyes and mind, and why he shouldn't be allowed into the same sphere as him, basically. And he feels like he's being harassed by Leffen incessantly. So that's that's it. Like the things that he lists are, in my personal, like, he lists a lot of things, and there are, I would say, probably some really good, legitimate criticisms. However, excuse me, all of them are mired down by the fact that this is a 2-hour and 33-minute video of him just complaining about this guy.
Yeah, it's like it's all blending together at this point, and like I will say, like, we don't have to end early. Like, I don't have to wake up early tomorrow, so I guess it's gonna be your call.
I do.
Yeah,
and I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so I think unless I did have other things I wanted to talk about, chat, but because this was the only slot for the night, I don't have them pulled up. So we have other things that we can work on. Tomorrow, chat, is Dogwave, so we'll be doing that. I think Mizu might be live, so let's see if we can raid Mizu.
Okay, ready now? Okay, I got you. Oh, hello.
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 Hi.
We're just about to end.
I peeked in right at the end, yeah.
You did.
I missed it. I was having a shower and a shave, and I missed the whole thing.
You did. You did. Sorry, Jazz. It's okay, though. Chat, you guys have a fantastic night. I'm going to raid you to Mizu on both ends here.
Bye, chat.
Okay, bye, chat. And thanks for having me on, by the way. I appreciate it.
Yup. Chat, you guys have a fantastic one. And I will